She swears she doesn't mean it. After all, who in their right mind would open a door for a stranger whilst they're barely covered? She's not a pervert and it wasn't her fault, okay? But it'd be a lie if she said that she didn't like what she saw, 'cause she did, she really did. Initially, the plan was to check out her new neighbor. She got news that the old property near to her home had been bought by someone and they were constructing a new home there. She just wanted to say hi and introduce herself to her new neighbor, and give him a housewarming gift, that's all she's here for. But to her absolute surprise, she was greeted by her new neighbor in a very, very stimulating way. He opened the door to her with nothing but a towel wrapped around his waist. His gorgeous blonde hair was still dripping wet with water. The moment she saw him, she could swear that the world freaking stopped all of a sudden, if not, slowed down at the very least. She couldn't control where her eyes landed after that. She was stunned by his facial features. The man before him was like someone straight out of the romance novels she consumes on a daily basis. Hell, even Prince Charming had nothing on this guy. And damn. Those pecs? Girl. God was unfair, as he sure took his time sculpting this man when he was creating him. He had a perfectly lean body and was bulky in all the right places. Geez, his skin tone was enviable too. She kind of wanted to ask what skincare he was using. And, once again, she's not a pervert, okay? It's not her fault. The towel was carelessly wrapped around his waist, and she was too stunned to control her actions. It wasn't her fault that she got a peek of his Excalibur. Pinkish tip, ah. Erica. Girl, snap out of it. Hi. Please stop seducing me? Maybe get dressed first, before opening the door? Your arms look big, can you wrap them around my neck? What exactly was she supposed to say here? Never mind that actually, can she even speak like this? 'Cause try as she might, her eyes just wouldn't freaking leave his body. And it seems that her hot neighbor noticed that she was staring too much. He looked at himself and she watched as the color drained from his face. I'll get back to you in a moment. Geez, that's a deep voice he got. I wonder how deep he can, pause. Erica shook her head as soon as the door closed on her. She took a deep breath and got rid of her hormonal thoughts, as best as she could at least. Ooh la la, she muttered, swearing that that's the final horny thought before fixing her expression. Still, she could already tell that this was going to be awkward. It's not like both of them could just ignore what happened just now, right? It happened at a bad time too. She muttered inwardly, I just came back from a long trip. Ugh. Not daring to continue that thought process, Erica sighed and waited till her neighbor was decent. And kudos to the guy, he didn't make her wait long. The door swung open again. This time Erica nearly suspected that this person must be the previous guy's twin because he had a completely different aura than before. Sorry about that, I wasn't expecting a visitor and I'm a little bit tired since I just moved. Anyway, my name is Cedric, how can I help you? Oh, so it's the same guy. I thought he had a twin. She inwardly said to herself. Hi. My name is Erica, I'm just here to greet a new neighbor. I just got the news that you moved in today, so I thought I'd bring you a nice housewarming gift. She said, trying to appear cheerful, despite the awkwardness. She even lifted the tray she was carrying to emphasize her point. She brought snacks and tiny decorations he could use for his new home. Erica then saw Cedric blinking at her, seemingly confused at first, before his expression changed into surprise. Oh. Thank you very much. I wasn't expecting that at all. He smiled, and Erica could swear she heard the angels singing when he did so. You didn't have to though. But still, I'll shamelessly accept. Cedric carefully received her gift. She nearly teared up when he saw how gentle he was. His expression was akin to a kid receiving birthday presents. It was so precious. How can someone be so daddy and baby at the same time? It doesn't make sense. And to think that I should get used to seeing him most of the time since we're neighbors? Lord. Give me the strength. I am not your strongest soldier. Would you like to come in for a bit? It's cold out here. Cedric gently asked, causing Erica to shake out of her stupor. No need. She exclaimed in a pitchy tune, which she didn't do on purpose. I have to go back soon anyway. I just wanted to say hi. Also, if you have any questions, feel free to knock on my door, or anyone's really. This is a friendly neighborhood after all. Thanks. I'll keep that in mind. Cedric beamed at her. Gah. Too bright. She inwardly squealed. Right, that's all, bye. Erica just couldn't stay there anymore, so she bid her farewell hurriedly and speed-walked her way out of there. She didn't even turn back at all. Once she returned to the safety of her own home, she locked the door behind her and squealed. She felt heat creeping up her face as she recalled what just transpired. She became a drooling mess after recalling the man's naked body, yet at the same time, she felt her heart being squeezed with how cute he looked earlier. What the hell? She exclaimed at the confinement of her room. How can someone like that exist? I thought they only existed in my imagination. Erica buried her face on the pillows, groaning at the fact that her new neighbor would haunt her dreams for a bit. Is he a celebrity? A model? He must be, right? There's no way he's not. In a bit of a frenzy, Erica opened her system and started searching the entertainment section for any artists named Cedric, only to be met with disappointment. She saw several people who shared the same name as him, but none came even remotely close to what he looked like. She also wouldn't be able to see social since Cedric had his own private and he uses a cartoon image for his profile picture. Is he a ghost then? No, he shouldn't be. He's too handsome and precious to be one. An angel maybe? Gah. What am I even thinking? Erica slumped on her bed and felt quite disappointed. Ugh, what's wrong with me? Am I really this desperate? This easy? Nope, this isn't me. I swear that was just a moment of weakness. I'm just tired. Yeah, that's it. I just returned from an exhausting trip after all. Yup, that makes sense. Once I'm sufficiently rested, I wouldn't make a fool of myself in front of him again. I'd laugh and realize that he isn't much once I get over this initial phase. Yup, that's what will happen. Manifesting. Sighing because of her ridiculous claims, Erica lay weakly on her bed. Now that she had time to herself once again, she could feel exhaustion creeping up on her. As she was about to fall asleep, she was suddenly jolted by a sudden alarm from her system. Nearly jumping out of fright, she glared at the call alert. Huffing, she sat up and answered the call. The hell do you want? Hello to you too, Erica. Good evening as well. Wow, I'm so touched by your warm greetings that I'm nearly reduced to tears. I knew that you have always been the sweetest girl that has ever walked this planet. Other bitches out there just couldn't compare themselves to you. Veins protruded on Erica's head as she listened to the words of the caller. I don't have time for your shit, Francis. Say what you want and leave me the fuck alone, I'm on vacation for crying out loud. I don't want to hear or see you while I'm supposed to be resting. Love you too, Erica. The caller, now named Francis, snorted on the other line. Anyway, listen up since I want this to be quick. Don't think that I want to listen to your ugly-ass bitching voice either. I, too, am on vacation, just like everyone else. But we can't escape from our responsibilities. Erica rolled her eyes, but didn't say anything. Captain managed to extend our vacation to a month. That's the good news. The bad news is that, as soon as this month is over, we're gonna be sent to hell again. This time, the receding hairline committee wants us to capture that land pronto. Ugh, God. Kill me now, please. Mood. Francis replied, anyway, let's enjoy our vacation but don't forget to gather the materials needed for the next project. Copy that. Erica grumbled. Great. Now if you'll excuse me, I need to get laid ASAP. Beep. Ugh. EW. Shit, finally did it. Cedric exclaimed as he rested his back against the chair. He closed his eyes and groaned when he felt their sting. He could feel a pang of exhaustion seeping through his body, but it wasn't that bad. In front of him, however, was a glowing orb of pure light. It floated on top of an iron plate that had numerous inscriptions and runes carved on its surface. Cedric rested his eyes for a bit before opening them. Then, using the system, he confirmed the product of his recent experimentations. Asterisk. Purification Altar, T1. An altar created for the sole purpose of purifying tainted items. It has numerous symbols carved on its surface, which aids in its purpose. Purified Demon Soul, T1. Demon Soul purified by a budding pioneer. Its side effects are completely cleansed, making it perfectly safe to use for various purposes. Note: purified demon souls are 20% more effective than the regular ones. Asterisk. Yes, Cedric indeed made it. He managed to do what others before him couldn't. He purified demon souls using symbols. He couldn't take all the credit though. If it weren't for the documentation left behind by his predecessors, it would have taken him longer before he reached this point. Congratulations on achieving an incredible feat. Aquila looks upon you in favor. You received a new title and an item. Title: Pioneer. Given to those who forged a path that has never been seen before. With this title, any research or experiments you do towards a new path will tend to bring more positive results. Symbol Master's Quill, T5. A tool used by an unnamed symbol master of the ancient era. Plus 15% symbol carving stability, great energy conductor, indestructible, and all material compatible. Bound to Cedric Stormrider. Asterisk. Cedric smiled after receiving those alerts. It seems that his hard work was recognized by the system. Given that Aquila wasn't his enemy, of course, he didn't mind this praise. If anything, he was happy since Aquila gave him rewards for his achievements. It's a good thing that there's no need for me to equip titles. So long as I have them, their effects will take place. He mused to himself. He then took out the Symbol Master's quill and admired its design. The quill was 12 inches long with a pointed tip. It's designed to look like a peacock's feather, radiating with a vibrant jade sheen. It has a ruby and amethyst crystal embedded on it, and it is also carved with numerous runes. Cedric twirled the quill between his fingers, surprised that it was lightweight despite its size. If this was because he was simply strong or because the quill barely weighed anything, didn't matter to him. What's important is that he now has an indestructible quill he can use to carve out symbols for future use. It's also bound to him, so nobody else could use it. Alert. System inquiry: would user Cedric like to publicize your discovery to others? HM? Cedric blinked upon receiving that alert. In hindsight, he wasn't too surprised. Of course, he had a clue on how important his discovery was. He eliminated the harmful side effects of demon souls and made it more effective. The majority of the superhumans out there use demon souls to strengthen themselves, this includes him of course. His invention could possibly change a lot for humanity. Alas. Not for now, at least. Cedric declined, sighing to himself. Besides the fact that this isn't a finished product just yet, I'm not strong enough to create a foothold in this society. Gathering attention to myself this early would be suicide. Understood. Once user Cedric is ready to publicize your discovery and invention, please don't hesitate to alert the system. Copy that. Cedric nodded. He dismissed the alert window and stood up from his seat. Now that he had successfully achieved the method of purifying demon souls, he could now relax for a bit. He could afford to delay leveling up. He has already waited for years, he could afford one more day. Right now, he wants to relax, to adjust his state of mind. Leaving the lab and locking the door behind him, he went towards the dining room to eat something. His gaze landed to his kitchen and a grimace appeared on his face. Haven't had the time to use this kitchen at all, which is waste. I didn't feel the need to since I'm still on a meal plan. He mused to himself as he took out meals from the said meal plans. Sighing, he continued, maybe I should cancel my subscription to the meal plan and learn how to cook. I mean, how hard can it be? That wouldn't take long, since I learn things pretty fast anyway. Shrugging to himself, he decided to think about that later. He focused on his meal, ate it, and took a dip in the pool after heating it. Yes, his pool had heating built into it. He did it himself using symbols purely because he could and he wanted to do it. As he relaxed on the warm waters of the pool, he extended his field of senses. He didn't unleash it completely, just at the comfortable 1 kilometer radius around him, which was its minimum after his evolution. All kinds of voices, scents, temperatures, and movements swarmed in his mind. Other people would have been overwhelmed by this much stimuli happening at once, but not Cedric, since he's used to it. Admittedly though, it was kind of troublesome to keep this on at all times. While at its minimum, he didn't feel any discomfort, he still felt that he was intruding on people's privacy whenever it was active. For example, he could now see that his friendly and bubbly neighbor, who he quite literally flashed when she visited him a few days ago, was flicking the bean as she watched. Shit. Cedric cursed in surprise as he immediately suppressed his field of senses. See what he meant by intruding on people's privacy? Rubbing his face in and feeling the heat creeping up his cheeks and neck, Cedric took a deep breath and profusely shifted his focus to something else before he started pitching a tent on his shorts. Unfortunately for him, his distraction tactic was barely working. He thinks that it's too late now since he not only saw what she's doing, but he also heard the sounds she and the purring cat were making. God damn it! He hissed as he felt the tightness in his pants. Groaning in discomfort, he turned off the heating on the pool and made his way towards the showers to pour cold water all over his body. Purified demon souls, T1, times 1M. Phew. Cedric blew a sigh as he finished his bulk purification using the altar. With a T1 purification altar, he could only purify 10,000 demon souls at once. That might sound a lot if it weren't for the fact that Cedric needed 100,000 demon souls just to level up. Well, with purified demon souls, he would only need 80k because of the 20% boost in effectiveness, but still. He needs to think of a way to increase the capacity without losing any effects of the purification. But that's a problem for another day. Right now, after converting a million's worth of demon souls, Cedric was finally ready to level up. He rested for a bit to adjust his mental state. After that, he made his way to the reinforced court. He sat in the middle and brought up the system to start the process of leveling up. System, use purified demon souls to level me up to 3. Alert. Confirm the use of 80,000 purified demon souls to level up. Y/N. Yes, go ahead. As soon as he gave his confirmation, he saw the number of purified demon souls draining from his inventory. He then felt a sudden surge of energy coursing through his body. His instincts screamed at him and he immediately suppressed the movement of his ki. If he hadn't done that, ki would have obliterated the power of souls, creating a battlefield within his body that could have resulted in grave injuries. Thankfully, he was quick on his act and it prevented a potential disaster. Keeping his ki still, Cedric could feel slight discomfort within his body, but it wasn't horrible. The power of souls seeped into his flesh, blood, and bones, bringing forth an empowering feeling. His muscles squirmed, his blood curdled, and his bones creaked. That didn't last long before it completely disappeared. Sensing that, he loosened his hold on his ki, and thankfully, it behaved calmly. He opened his eyes and marveled at the sheer strength coursing through his veins. Congratulations, user Cedric. You are now level 3. Finally, after many years of enduring and the recent months of pure hustle, he finally increased his level once more. A wide smile appeared on his face. Yet, as much as he was tempted to continue leveling up, it wouldn't be wise. He needed to give his body ample time to adjust, and with his superhuman physique, that shouldn't take long. Soon, it will happen, I'll be reaching tier 2. I just need to have more patience for now. Cedric sighed before dropping down to do some stretches. Profile. Name, Cedric Stormrider. Age, 21. Race, Human 2. Class, Swordsman T1, Main, Demon Slayer, 2nd, Scribe, Sub. Level, 9. Titles, Veteran Undead Slayer, Son of Heaven, Pioneer. System Authority, LV.8. Aptitude. Body, EX. Energy, EX. Spirit, EX. Locked. Tier 2 REQ. Final rating, EX. Skills. Actives, Sword Ki, M, Kickboxing, M, Iron Skin, M, Multi-Stab LV.6, Air Hop, M, Focus LV.20. Passives, Superhuman Physiology, U, Superhuman Perception, U, Education LV.17, Key Mastery, M, Footwork, M, Demon Lore LV.20, Slayer's Mark LV.1, Decode LV.20, Symbol Mastery LV.30. Mandatory Task. Hell Dive, survive the endless undead horde for 3 hours. Rewards 100% demon soul gain, clearance streak +1. Punishment for failure, failure streak +1. Record, clear streak 7, failure streak 0. Phew. Cedric blew out a breath as he concluded his morning workout. Smiling wryly, he clenched and unclenched his fists, still adjusting to the increase of his strength thanks to his continuous leveling up. If he wasn't paying attention, he would have torn off his bedroom door right from the hinges with a casual hold. Even the max level restriction of the restriction stamp proved useless right now. That being said, the superhuman physique showed its wondrous effects on his adjustment. Just after he finished his morning exercise, he could already tell that he had completely adjusted to his new strength. The absurd thing about all of this is that he's too powerful. Although he was asking for it, he was still surprised by how absurd this increase of strength was. Truly, as expected of the EX rank aptitude. Geez, I feel like I could kill a tier 4 expert if I really tried my best. He mused to himself while smiling wryly, this is so unfair. As if Cedric needed any more proof that the world isn't fair, not that he's complaining though. With how unfair this world is, it was perfectly acceptable for him to cheat. Now that he's no longer afraid of ruining his furniture due to carelessness, Cedric confidently made his way to the kitchen to make himself a meal. Right, he could be considered a 5-star chef now, he's just lacking certification. With how ridiculously fast his learning capabilities were, this was to be expected. The meals he prepares for himself are even way better than the ones he got from his meal plan, which is why he already unsubscribed from it yesterday. The cooking skill was absorbed by his education skill, so it wasn't displayed in his profile page. After gorging himself with a luxurious meal and taking a shower, he changed into his combat gear and relaxed for a bit. Once he was good to go, he didn't waste any more time and said, "System, I'm applying for a class change for my swordsman class. Notice. Class change quest application requires a fee of 100,000 demon souls, proceed? Yes. Alert. 100,000 demon souls deducted from the currency stash. Transferring user Cedric to the Hall of Heroes for the quest in 3, 2, 1. Swoosh. Cedric's body was then seized by an unknown force that appeared out of nowhere, causing him to disappear from his house. He experienced a turbulent force rocking his world, causing him to feel dizzy and panicked when it suddenly stopped. With a loud thud, he was unceremoniously dropped into a place that he had never seen before. Waiting for the world to stop spinning and fighting the urge to vomit, Cedric stayed in place for a bit. When he felt fine, he opened his eyes and shook his head. He unconsciously unfolded his field of senses to scour the environment around him. According to the feedback he received from his senses, he was transferred to a floating island. Looking up, he saw that the sky was just a seemingly endless expanse of white. The only sound he hears comes from his breathing and movements. The entire place was eerie, with no soul in sight either. Aside from the boundless white ceiling, as he calls it, he also saw other chunks of land here and there. Some were nearby, others were beneath the island he's on or above. Some were sideways, others were upside down. Some were intact, while others were on the verge of crumbling. The entire place doesn't make sense at all. Cedric got the feeling that it wasn't supposed to as well. It's confusing, making him wonder if he was really in the right place. Welcome to the Hall of Heroes, user Cedric. Please step into the nearby platform to begin your class change quest. Well, that answers it at least. He's indeed in the right place. He shouldn't have doubted the system. Getting rid of his unnecessary thoughts, Cedric took a deep breath and walked towards the obsidian platform near him. As soon as both feet touched the platform, a system alert flashed on his face. The class change quest will now start for user Cedric. The test begins by allowing the system to scan your body to generate a comprehensive test. Proceed? Go ahead. Cedric's reply echoed everywhere. The scan then started, leaving a tingling feeling all over his body. He didn't resist it, nor it was uncomfortable. Once it was done, another alert appeared on his face. Scan complete. Class change quest, given. Cedric was then surprised by the sudden movement around him. Some of the islands he saw here and there began moving. They crumbled down, and chunks of debris flew all over the place. Shortly after, he saw them forming a completely new island that looked remarkably the same as the Roman Coliseum. This one though, was about 5 times larger. Class change quest issued. Quest, survive. Step into the Colosseum and face waves upon waves of enemies. There will be a 5-minute respite after you complete a wave. At every 10th wave, there will be a boss fight. The respite period will be extended to 30 minutes after each boss fight, though this is only applicable to the boss fight. Regular waves will only have a 5-minute rest in between. Note: please do your best. Don't hold anything back. This place is a separate dimension and nobody aside from you and the system will know what happens here. Your new class will be decided by your final results. Good luck, user Cedric. Asterisk. TCH. Do you mean to say that this one is in endless mode too? What the hell is up with me and endless modes? Is this some kind of punishment? Is my life's difficulty permanently locked to the endless mode, too? Cedric could only really complain about this. Seeing as the system didn't even bother replying to his complaints proved that it didn't care about his opinions. Grumbling, he summoned his sword and refilled his utility belt. God knows he will need it later. Then he started walking towards the Colosseum. At least the venue's pretty, he murmured to himself. Unlike what the purgatory looked like in his hell dives, this place at least had great lighting. The ground's flat too, though he's quite sure that that's not going to last for long. Cedric was suddenly struck by an idea once he arrived at the center of the battlefield. Seeing as the quest hadn't started yet, he decided to run around the place at a brisk pace. If I wanted to, I could, leave traps for my enemies. They'd be in for a nasty surprise the moment they appear. He mused as he continued familiarizing himself with the battlefield. Maybe later though, let's see what this place had in store for me first. Start the first wave. Spawning the first wave of enemies. Cedric's gaze immediately located the summoning circles appearing not too far from him. The circles rose, it revealed the shapes of his soon enemies. Beasts, huh? He inwardly predicted once their shapes were revealed. His prediction was soon proven correct. A pack of wolves appeared, snarling aggressively at him the moment they smelled him. Without wasting any time, the pack began hunting him. Cedric's gaze remained impassive though. He took a step and promptly disappeared from their sight. That was then followed by a flash of light before Cedric reappeared behind them. Blood spurted out of the pack's bodies. The poor wolves didn't even know how they died. As they fell, their bodies turned into ashes, fading into nothingness within the next second, and their blood also disappeared. It's like they never existed in the first place. Cedric commented inwardly. Once he's done with the first wave, a 5-minute countdown timer appears above him. Humming to himself, he said. Looks like I'm not gonna be fighting demons. Meaning that the combat bonuses that the Demon Slayer class gives me was essentially useless here. Maybe I shouldn't have allowed the system to scam me earlier, but if I did that, would I be allowed to continue with the quest? Whatever. It's a little too late for that now. I might as well see what my next opponents are. The system took that as a sign that he was ready for the next wave. And so, the next batch of summoning circles appeared not too far from him. Cedric tightened his grip on the sword and waited until his next enemies materialized. Fuck. Rat-a-tat-tat-ta. Cedric ducked and weaved all over the place, dodging the incoming bullet hell. Not too far from him stood a group of faceless humans riding a tank with 2 miniguns equipped in it. I don't think I signed up for this. He groaned as bullets whizzed past his face due to him barely evading them. This isn't to say that he's having a hard time. Sure, the hail of bullets was annoying, but he could manage. Cedric kept dodging the hail until he discovered a chance to end this wave. With a surprising burst of speed, he flashed past the tanks, bisecting them in a blink of an eye. They exploded, but Cedric was too far away to be affected. Releasing a breath, he saw the familiar timer above him counting down. Wave 10 is next. Cedric hummed as he spun the sword in his hand. Since he barely spent any energy dealing with the previous waves, Cedric didn't think that it necessary to spend the entire 5-minute rest period. He summoned the 10th wave directly to cut the time he needed to spend here. Under his gaze, a single summoning circle appeared. Knowing that this round was supposed to be a boss wave, he wasn't surprised, he's just wondering what he's going to face next. The shape that formed after the summoning answered that though. A human appeared. Blonde, 6 foot tall, faceless, just like the humans he had fought so far here. The man was wearing leather armor with extra paddings on the joints. A rapier was attached to his waist. The man then wordlessly took out his rapier and went into a fencing stance. Cedric observed this with a narrowed gaze, feeling quite bummed inwardly. He's full of openings. Cedric commented to himself. Still, he didn't dare to ignore his opponent. He focused and the two of them measured each other through gazes, which was a bit weird since Cedric's opponent was faceless, but whatever. Then, the man suddenly attacked. Others might be surprised by the man's speed as he lunges straight towards his opponent with his rapier thrusting forward. Unfortunately, Cedric wasn't others. Everything, from the way his opponent tightened his grip on the handle of the rapier, To the way his muscles contracted as he prepared for the attack, all the way to him lunging forward with a surprising burst of speed, Cedric perceived everything. Nothing could escape his senses. Must be a squire then, Cedric commented as he waited for the man to close the distance. The moment he did, Cedric swung his sword to parry the strike. The parry was performed masterfully, and it completely broke the stance and the force that the man carried with him, leaving him reeling and open for a counterattack. Cedric adjusted his hold on his sword, he then lunged forward, not going far, just enough to stab the tip of his sword through his opponent's skull, ending the battle just like that. All of this took place within the span of 5 seconds. And for Cedric, who's expecting a challenge, considering that this is supposed to be a boss fight, it was extremely disappointing. And just to confirm that this is indeed supposed to be a boss fight, he saw the timer having 30 minutes allotted for a rest period, not the usual 5 minutes. Pursing his lips in disappointment, he sat down on the ground, grumbling a little bit. He took out a snack and a drink to ease his boredom. Then he asked the system. "Hey system, how much time has passed outside?" Notice. To put it simply, user Cedric, the time flow here is the same as Hell Dives. No matter how much time you spend here, only 30 minutes will pass outside. Ah, I see. Cedric hummed as he tore open the bag of chips, good to know. At the very least, though, this place wasn't as horrible as the purgatory. The latter was filled with so much demonic corruption that breathing became laborious, not to mention that the weather could become horrible in the blink of an eye. That hadn't been a problem to Cedric ever since he started his improvement though, but it's annoying. What he's doing now, eating snacks, was something that he couldn't and wouldn't do while he's in the purgatory. And just with that alone, this place is already better than the purgatory. That said, it's boring so far. He could tell that his opponents would become stronger after each wave, but that's going to take some time. Sighing to himself, Cedric decided to take his time eating his snacks. Afterward, he will continue breezing through the waves. Let's see how far I can go here. Bang. Bang. Boom. Wow, this is crazy. Cedric deadpanned as he ran around the battlefield, dodging waves upon waves of incoming attacks. He was being harassed on all sides. There were bullets, energy projectiles, arrows, bombs, shrapnels, and even a goddamned orbital bombardment. Cedric was being forced to move here, and it's quite displeasing, but there's nothing he could do about that. He wasn't passive though. If anything, Cedric was blitzing at his top speed, taking out squads of enemies at once. Some of his opponents were ruthless though, the moment they see him near, they will immediately blow themselves up, causing him to be wary of them at least. This chaos was wave 99, and as much as this was dangerous and chaotic, Cedric was having the time of his life. He got the stimulation he wanted. It took some time, but his opponents did scale to the point where he doesn't have to hold back anymore. Cedric was using all his active skills here. His combat experience was climbing as he studied the way to deal with the masses of enemies spawning around him. Unlike the endless undead horde, the current wave of enemies he's facing is far more dangerous. They carried all sorts of weapons and paraphernalia. Not all were humans, too. Yet for some reason, they seemed to be working perfectly together as if they'd done this before. Cedric was forced to utilize everything he had so far. And with that, he could feel himself growing exponentially. Despite being surrounded, Cedric was still full of energy. He dashed around, decimating squads of enemies in his wake. That said, this isn't like his Hell Dive, where the waves just constantly spawn without rest. The wave here spawns all at once, and once he reduces their numbers enough, their lethality also goes down with it. And so, just like the previous waves he cleared so far, Cedric also cleared wave 99. The 5-minute resting period comes after that. Cedric wasn't idle though. Adrenaline still pumps in his veins as he swiftly downed a bottle of water while moving around, leaving behind traps for the next enemy that's coming in. Yeah, he's employing this strategy now. He leaves a nasty trap for the next wave during the resting period to gain just a slight edge for himself. He doesn't do it often though, since he has limited resources with him. So far, he's only doing it during boss waves since every boss recently had been accompanied by groups of additional enemies, making it more difficult to handle them. The 5 minutes swiftly passed and by then, 100th wave began. A Tier 5 LV.1 expert appeared, accompanied by a military squad under his command. The moment they spawned, however, the traps Cedric left behind were triggered. That got most of them, so now, the pressure Cedric faces became lighter. Not wanting to be caught idle, Cedric dashed around once more. The boss was hot on his trail while he dealt with the remaining small fries. When it was just him and the boss left, Cedric engaged the boss in a melee, putting everything he got on each strike. He's facing a tier 5 expert, even if he wanted to, he couldn't hold back here. It's already mighty impressive that he could confront this phantom. Other people at his level wouldn't even be able to reach this far. Hell, they wouldn't even dream of it. Bang! Shit! Cedric groaned as his opponent suddenly exploded with an unknown force that blew him away. Despite his superior senses, he was unable to react to it, he couldn't even sense it happening. He didn't have time to dally either, since he could literally feel the blade of his opponent grazing his neck. Thankfully he was as flexible as a gymnast, or else he would have been decapitated by now. With a timely parry, followed by a feint which his opponent fell for, and him capitalizing on that window of opportunity, he wouldn't have been able to do substantial damage to his foe. Sadly, despite him squeezing everything he had left on his body to fight back and his opponent missing an arm, their fight ended up with them stabbing each other in the chest, a draw to be exact. Collapsing to the ground, Cedric had enough time to see his opponent turning into dust and seeing the conclusion of the wave before the system determined that he couldn't continue anymore. That was fun. Alert! Class change quest concluded. Congratulations, user Cedric, for reaching the 100th wave. Notice: obtaining new class. Cedric woke up with a groan of discomfort. He felt the stone-cold floor beneath him and the lingering smell of chaos in the air. His body hurts, but nothing was out of place. Sitting up, he immediately discovered that his clothes were drenched in his dried blood. Seeing that the bloodstains hardened already, he must have spent a long time unconscious. Well, this is going to be a pain to wash off. He lamented as he slowly stood up. Despite being unconscious for a while, Cedric still felt exhausted. His ki hadn't recovered enough yet and his muscles were aching still. Fortunately, he's not expecting any trouble right now. Right, the quest. He muttered. He brought up the system alerts and saw that it recorded his final results. The strange part of it was that his class change hadn't finished yet. The last alert on his log said that his new class was being determined, yet when he looked at his profile, nothing had changed yet. This was when he began surveying his surroundings. And to his surprise, he's no longer in the Colosseum. He's on another island altogether. This one seemingly exists in a different space, because he didn't see the other scattered islands around it. There's nothing on this island except the patches of grass growing here and there, broken pieces of flooring, himself, and a wide ritual altar that beckons him closer. I guess I need to go there to conclude this quest? Cedric mused out loud. He didn't hear the system confirming his musing, but he somewhat understood that it should have been obvious. Sighing to himself, he dragged his body towards the altar. Inwardly, he felt lucky that his previous gamble worked. You see, Cedric wasn't entirely sure if he would survive a fatal injury here. The system didn't indicate anything that ensured his safety. That said, he concluded his idea based on the context clues he received so far. The system said that this place works just like his regular hell dives. Additionally, the system told him to hold nothing back since nothing could spy on this place. To Cedric, the former was kind of a giveaway while the latter was an assurance. He already impressed himself by miraculously surviving until the 100th wave. The fact that he tied with a tier 5 expert was an impossible achievement that he secured. Cedric was convinced that he couldn't die here. He felt weirdly confident about that. He could have just asked the system, of course, and the system might have answered him truthfully, but it's too late for that now. Either way, he was lucky that his intuition saved him once more. Stepping into the altar, Cedric deadpanned at first since nothing happened. However, before he could even complain, the entire altar lit up under him, and a strange flow of energy drowned his senses. The energy wasn't harmful. It's the opposite actually. Cedric's body greedily inhaled the energy without his consent. Normally, he would find this dangerous, but now, he just let it go. Even his ki welcomed this foreign energy. And as strange as this might sound, Cedric felt complete after absorbing the energy. It's like there's always been a missing puzzle piece in his life that was now filled. Closing his eyes in comfort, Cedric allowed himself to bask in this feeling. The sensation was so comforting that he felt like he was floating. Well, he was floating. Class change commencing. Due to user Cedric's innate potential and incredible achievement, the ancient record stirred into activity. The system is now filtering the perfect class to suit user Cedric. Cedric couldn't hear any of these alerts. He was too lost in this comfortable feeling and was slowly becoming addicted to it. Even if a calamity were to strike his surroundings right now, Cedric would remain ignorant about it. The energy he was absorbing didn't just make him comfortable. It also nourished his entire body. Under that light, his skin peeled and regenerated at a visible pace. His muscles contracted and coiled tighter to his bones, his blood was being washed of impurities, and his bones were being refined. The foreign energy penetrated and nourished the deepest parts of his existence, even reaching his spirit, rousing it to wakefulness. Now that he's transitioning to Tier 2, his spirit stat was awakening too, thanks to this ceremony. Once Cedric's entire being reached a certain point of awakening, a miracle occurred around him. An aurora curtain appeared above him, and manifestations of celestial bodies were summoned as well. Cedric's body then erupted with a golden radiance, which made him look like a newly ascended god. It was here that Cedric's eyes suddenly flashed open, and when he did, the golden radiance he exuded suddenly exploded and illuminated everything miles away from where he was. Congratulations, user Cedric. You have been reborn as the new Luminous Sage. Class changed from Swordsman to Luminous Sage. Title added, Young Sage. Due to your new class, your skills are being modified. Superhuman Physique, U, plus Key Mastery transforms to Elementary Sage Physique, U. Superhuman Perception, U, becomes Sage's Perception, U. Gained, Sage Arts, LV.1 of 100, Lightspeed, LV.1/100. Asterisk. Class, Luminous Sage, U. A class bestowed to someone who possesses heaven-defying potential, extraordinarily tempered willpower, and an incredible drive to seek improvement. Title, Young Sage. Provides a 15% bonus on the growth of sage-related abilities. Elementary Sage Physique, U. An evolving physique possessed by sages. Bestows a physique that could not only grow impervious to many harmful substances, but also allow the possessor to harmonize with the world, allowing them to learn and understand more of its natural mysteries. Note: this physique can evolve elementary-profound-advanced-perfected. As for how the user must explore it himself. Sage Perception, U. A sage has a mind open to numerous possibilities. They could see things others couldn't, and they understand far more than they let on. Their perception is also in tune with the world itself. Grants accelerated thoughts, 1000 thoughts/second, also affected by multitasking, sixth sense, perception of concepts, heavenly senses, sense that could grow to perceive everything under the heavens, sage's enlightenment, more likelihood of attaining natural enlightenment. Lightspeed, LV.10 out of 100. The ability to travel at the speed of light. Current speed 1/10 speed of light, duration 10 seconds, cooldown 1 minute. Note: skill, footwork, M, fused with this skill. Sage Arts, LV.1 out of 100. The compiled knowledge of every sage practitioner that ever existed. Before increasing your mastery of this skill, the user must first designate a certain aspect to follow. Chosen aspect, none. Asterisk. Profile. Name, Cedric Stormrider. Age, 21. Race, Human 2. Class, Tier 2 Luminous Sage. Level, 1. Titles, Veteran Undead Slayer, Son of Heaven, Pioneer, Young Sage. System Authority, LV.8. Aptitude. Body, EX. Energy, EX. Spirit, EX. Final rating, EX+. Skills. Actives, Sword Key, M, Kickboxing, M, Iron Skin, M, Multi-Stab LV.6, Air Hop, M, Focus LV.25, Lightspeed LV.10. Passives, Elementary Sage Physique, U, Sage's Perception, U, Education LV.22, Demon Lore, Slayer's Mark, LV.20, Decode LV.20, Symbol Mastery LV.30, Sage Arts LV.1. Mandatory Task. Hell Dive, survive the endless undead horde for 3 hours. Rewards 100% demon soul gain, clearance streak +1. Punishment for failure, failure streak +1. Record, clear streak 7, failure streak 0. Asterisk. That's a lot of alerts. Cedric deadpanned as he finished reading through the text walls that swarmed his face. Still, Cedric could feel the sheer difference between the current him from the previous him. Right now, he could say without a doubt that if he were to fight that Tier 5 expert from before again in this state, he would win. Truth be told, that Tier 5 opponent was lousy, most likely someone who barely reached the tier. If he were to face a real, genuine Tier 5 expert, then not even his class change bonuses would be enough to deal with it. That said, he became quite an absurd existence right now. Luminous Sage, huh? Cedric hummed as he felt energy coursing through his entire being. It's a unique class, one that is bestowed by the system to those who deserve it. Earlier when he was basking under that radiance, certain understandings flowed to him. He knows that he's not the only one who possesses a unique class, but he's the only one who is a sage in this current era. There had been sages before, and all of them left a visible mark on human history. Cedric knows this, thanks to the knowledge he consumed before. And now that he gained this title too, he felt compelled to do the same, yet only time will tell if he would actually do so. And don't forget, Cedric isn't just a sage, he's a demon slayer too. He now has a legendary and a unique class at the same time. To say that he's an absurd existence would sound an understatement if he were to be honest, but you'd certainly not hear him complaining. For now though, since he's done with the quest, it was time for him to get out of here. Experiments could be done later in the real world. Profile. Name, Cedric Stormrider. Age, 21. Race, Human 2. Classes, Luminous Sage, Main, Demon Slayer, Second, Scribe, Sub. Level, Tier 2 LV.1. Titles, Veteran Undead Slayer, Son of Heaven, Pioneer, Young Sage. System Authority, LV.8. Aptitude. Body, EX. Energy, EX. Spirit, EX. Final rating, EX+. Skills. Actives, Sword Key, M, Kickboxing, M, Iron Skin, M, Multi-Stab LV.6, Air Hop, M, Focus LV.25, Lightspeed LV.10. Passives, Elementary Sage Physique, U, Sage's Perception, U, Education LV.22, Demon Lore LV.20, Slayer's Mark LV.1, Decode LV.20, Symbol Mastery LV.30, Sage Arts LV.1. Mandatory Task. Hell Dive, survive the endless undead horde for 5 hours twice, new. Rewards 100% Demon Soul Gain, Clearance Streak +1. Punishment for failure, Failure Streak +1. Record, Clear Streak 7, Failure Streak 0. The mandatory service quest changed. Cedric mumbled as he looked at his profile page. Previously, his monthly service task was to survive the endless undead horde for 3 hours straight. Now, that has been extended to 5 hours and he had to do it twice. It sounds unreasonable, especially considering how absurd the task was in the first place. And if Cedric was still his previous self, he would have complained about this. Now though, this doesn't faze him at all. If anything, his logical side thinks that this is just natural. The monthly service task was made to keep humanity sharp and ready for their enemies. It keeps their skills fresh and ingrained in their being. For this very reason, the task grows in difficulty to keep the pressure up. Cedric has grown considerably strong after he changed his class to Luminous Sage. In addition to that, he still had a lot of growing to do. Therefore, it is understandable that the challenges he will face in his monthly service task will grow in difficulty as well. That's just the way it is. Don't take this the wrong way, Cedric still thinks that this is unfair. He had just grown used to it at this point. That aside, Cedric was currently having fun with his new skills. Now that he has grown considerably in strength, his abilities have grown stronger as well. Though some of his skills were consumed by fusion or changed entirely, the benefits he got from the skills that disappeared still lingered in him, and that won't go away. Right now, Cedric's perception was downright terrifying. With just enough effort on his part, nowhere near the point where he's stressing or struggling, he could sense everything that's happening within the Black Thread City. No movement was hidden from him. No conversation was a secret. Hell, if he tries hard enough, he could even peer through the common folks' thoughts. Yes, like mind reading. To some extent, he could even predict what they're going to do next. With how sharp his senses became, so too did his mind grow. Even with this much morsel of information, Cedric was handling all of it with relative ease, that's of course if he kept it at the minimum. Additionally, if he uses Lightspeed just for the hell of it? He could lap around this entire city in an instant. How ridiculous was this? Just a reminder, the lightspeed skill was just at LV.10, its maximum was LV.100, where he could literally run at the speed of light in a vacuum. Once he maxes this out, there's nowhere in this world he couldn't go. That said, the skill will certainly take some time before it is mastered. In addition, even with his evolved physique, his body still can't handle lightspeed travel. Still, this is already mighty impressive, especially since he's only at tier 2. Okay, let's see what this thing has to offer. Cedric sat down on the empty gym and closed his eyes. He sank his perception at the depths of his mind and summoned everything he knew about sage arts. According to the skill's description, before he could even begin leveling up this skill, or using it even, he must first adapt an aspect. From what he knew, thanks to the boatload of information he received during his ascension ceremony, sage arts was just a list of skills that were made for sages like him. The skill itself was the amalgamation of all skills that all of the previous sage created. The compilation of them all resulted in the creation of sage arts itself. The luminous part of his class name, Luminous Sage, means that his affinity towards anything that is considered luminous was the greatest. However, this doesn't necessarily mean that he's forced to follow that path. So long as he doesn't adopt an aspect that stands on the opposite spectrum of his affinity, then he shouldn't face any real difficulties. Especially considering how absurd his learning speed was. Back to the aspect, it would be more accurate to say that this was an attribute or a concept. By adopting an aspect to his sage art, the skill will display the effect of the aspect whenever he uses the skill. Thanks to the well of information he gleaned into, Cedric had a fair understanding of which aspect was considered luminous. Therefore, choosing an aspect for his sage arts hasn't been difficult so far. With a LV.8 system authority, I've been given access to information that shouldn't have anything to do with the current me so far. He mused to himself. Amongst those many files was my discovery of the awful truth about the world we live in. A demon has devoured the sun. It occurred centuries ago. That specific event plunged the world into a period of miserable darkness. Without the sun, nature collapsed and humanity's hope drained. It was only through the efforts of many heroes that the light was restored. In reality, though, it has never been the same. The light that we see outside is fake. The sun disappeared ages ago. The one that we have now is only an artificial one, produced by the enduring lighthouse. Normal people couldn't tell the difference, and maybe that's for the best. Unfortunately, as convincing it may be, a fake cannot beat the original. Unlike the real sun, the artificial one cannot weaken demons. Which is probably why it was the first thing they dealt with before trying to dominate humanity. It is lamentable how this truth came to be. And the fact that it was kept as a secret by the authorities made Cedric uncertain as to what he should feel about it. That being said, it is this very truth that allowed him to choose an aspect for his sage arts. This world is unfair, but that can hardly be blamed on the authorities or Akala herself. They're doing their best to improve the situation. Sadly, they don't have many options on how to do just that. It's the demon's fault. They're the source of everything that's wrong here. I'm no hero. Nor do I have any desire to be one. But, if I could help, even as minuscule as it can be, even if it ends up with me sacrificing my life just to make things a little bit better, maybe, this will all be worth it. Cedric took a deep breath and did his best to harmonize with the world. His intent, his desire, they manifested in the form of fluctuations that blended with his surroundings. Slowly but surely, a change occurred around him. The air got heavier and the heat suddenly rose. Light bent around him, causing Cedric's body to phase in and out of existence. On his chest, specks of light converged, turning into a golden orb that scorched a mark in between his clavicles. The mark looked very similar to that of the sun's. As soon as the mark appeared on his body, a plume of hot, golden flames crackled around his body. Cedric was hurt though. In fact, he looked strangle comfortable for a man who's quite literally in flames. Notice. Sage art aspect chosen. Alert. User Cedric has chosen the aspect of the sun. Sage art, LV.1 out of 100. The compiled skills and techniques of sages. From the skill of manipulating energies, performing rituals, magic, and martial arts, down to the disciplines and etiquette that sages of the old used are included in his skills. Aspect of the sun, the user has chosen the sun as the primary aspect of this skill, granting it attributes and concepts that are closely aligned to the sun. When Cedric opened his eyes, the golden flames around him suddenly disappeared. The heat still lingered around, but it didn't bother him at all. Standing up, he stretched his hand forward and uttered, "Sage art, sunlight manifestation." Then, an orb of golden light appeared on his palms. Sage art, sunlight manifestation was a skill that converted his energy into real sunlight. This skill is also the representation of his control and mastery over sunlight. Dispersing the golden orb of light, he once again focused and uttered, "Sage art, true sun fire." Golden flames billowed on his hands all of a sudden. It was the very same flames that appeared earlier. Now, Cedric can release, control, shape, and master these flames as well. Knowing that the demons eliminated the sun to press their advantages, Cedric wonders how far are they willing to go just to eliminate him as soon as possible. They would most likely send a demon emperor to deal with me. Cedric mused inwardly, I better keep this a secret for now. Hey, Cedric. Good morning. Cedric paused whatever he was doing, he turned around and saw Erica standing not too far from him. From what he saw, he assumed that she must be tending to her lawn. Oh, hey Erica. Good morning to you too. He greeted in return. You're well dressed, going somewhere? Yeah. Cedric smirked, going to visit the nearby Lifestyle Guild branch to get my certification and credentials. Oh. You have a profession class? Can you tell me what it is? I'm a scribe. He replied. Wow. Erica looked impressed at least. I heard that that's one of the more challenging professions. Good for you. Oh, it's nothing. Cedric waved a hand in dismissal. How about you? What are you up to today? Nothing much, just tending to my lawn, giving it a last-minute trim cause Lord knows that I won't be able to do this for a while. Erica sighed. Why is that? Business trip. Erica paused before replying. I won't be home for, maybe a month or two. Who knows? Cedric blinked as he caught that lie. Well, it's more of a white lie, actually. One of the benefits of having superior senses than most is the ability to tell when somebody's lying to him, white lies included. I see. Must be troublesome, then. Cedric replied sympathetically. Hey, if it's all right with you, I can look after your home while you're away. Erica paused whatever she was doing to look at him with a hopeful gaze. Really? You'd do that? Yeah, no problem. Cedric replied, I'll be home most of the time anyway, and your house is just in front of mine. It's no sweat on my back. This way, you can focus on your job instead. Great. I'm obviously okay with that. I'll pay you when I return, I promise. Oh, there's no need to pay me. It's not like I'll do much anyway, aside from making sure that you have a home to return to. Really? You're okay with that? Yeah, like I said, no sweat on my back. Cedric shrugged while grinning at her. He then looked at his watch and said, Oh, look at the time. Well, I have to go now. See you later. Right, don't let me keep you then. Drive safely. Erica waved at him as he got into his car. Yes, Cedric is now a car owner as well. Public transportation was quite far from this part of the city, and since he had the funds to buy a car, he decided to buy one for convenience. Cedric set his GPS to the nearby Lifestyle Guild branch. His purpose there was to officially register himself as a scribe, getting his license and certifications as well. While having a professional class and raising its level was enough for one to be recognized as part of the Lifestyle Guild, it's still advisable to officially register to the guild and fill out the paperwork. The additional credentials provide supporting documents for work and would make most professional endeavors smoother. The drive from his home to the nearby guild branch took 20 minutes since the venue was located near the center of the city. He passed through gates and numerous high-rise buildings as he drove there. Thanks to his evolved perception, he was able to admire the scenery within the city while driving. The majority of the population could be seen roaming around here as this was the busiest part of the city. Thanks to his therapy sessions with Dr. Vega, Cedric was now fine mingling with the crowd. He's still not a big fan of it, but he could exist with it. He no longer feels like a stranger or an outsider whenever he's amongst them, so that's an improvement. The Lifestyle Guild branch looked humble at first glance. It was designed to look like a tavern from the old times. It's quirky, to say the least, and it does its job of attracting attention. Initially, Cedric was puzzled by the place, thinking to himself, how can such a small accommodate that many people? Well, that question was answered the moment he got inside. As it turns out, the place was bigger inside compared to its outside appearance. Pocket dimension, huh? Cedric was no stranger to the term or the idea, even though he doesn't understand how exactly it works just yet. Superhumans of the upper tier do possess an absurd strength, some of them also have a deeper understanding of concepts. So much so that they can harness its strength and use it how they see fit. Constructing a stable pocket dimension was something that Cedric himself would like to study. However, that is something for the future him to deal with. Right now, he had matters to attend to. The interior design of the guild branch was also starkly different from what it looked like from the outside. On the outside, the place looked like an ancient tavern, but on the inside, it couldn't be more futuristic. All of the latest pieces of technology can be seen and used inside the place. It was cool, metaphorically and literally with all puns intended, inside. It was surprising too since, like what was mentioned earlier, the interior of the place was bigger compared to what it looked like outside. Cedric searched for a bit and found the reception area. Walking towards it, he took a breath and approached the lady sitting behind a desk for help. "Hi. How can I help you today?" The lady at the reception welcomed him with a smile. "Hi, I have a registration appointment for today under the name of Cedric Stormrider." "I see. Let me check my list first for confirmation. It won't take long, I promise." The lady then opened her database to search for details about Cedric's appointment. A minute later, she got back to him and said, "Thank you for waiting. I confirmed your appointment with us. Sadly, your facilitator is still preoccupied with something. We do apologize for the delay, but if you can wait for at least 5 more minutes, he will be with you." "I understand. I'll wait." "Awesome. Please, take a sit in the waiting area. Feel free to help yourself with some snacks and refreshments too, if you feel like it. I'll call you when our staff is ready." Cedric nodded to her. He turned around and went to the waiting area. While he's waiting, he decides to distract himself by refreshing his knowledge about symbols and the responsibilities of a scribe because he knows that he will need it. Time passed and before he knew it. "Excuse me, sir. Our staff is now ready to receive you." Cedric looked up and saw the same lady standing near him. He nodded to her and dismissed the system windows he had brought up recently. The lady then led him towards the place where his appointment would take place. When they got there, the lady told him to enter and didn't follow him inside. Knocking, just in case, before entering the room, he saw that there were a few other people there as well. Scanning the room briefly, he assumed that he wasn't the only one who had an appointment for today. He's also not the last person to appear. He sat on one of the chairs available and waited until something started. After 5 more minutes, a person suddenly appeared out of nowhere, a man who didn't come through the door. Cedric assumed that he teleported here. The others appeared to not sense the man's arrival, but he certainly did. The same man then walked towards the podium at the far front of the room and gazed at the crowd. He saw the man sigh and clapped his hands to get everybody's attention. "Right, it seems that everybody's here. If not, well, I can only apologize since I won't wait anymore. Better luck next time, I guess. Anyway. Welcome, everyone. My name is Chrome. I'll be facilitating your registration and examinations for today. If you succeed, you'll be officially recognized by the Lifestyle Guild as professional scribes. If you fail, you can always try again later." Cedric could sense the shift amongst the crowd. He could tell that at least half of the people here didn't expect there to be an examination. He could even hear their murmurs clearly, as if they were speaking right next to him. "You're here, so you might as well take the exam. Who knows? Maybe some of you would be lucky enough to pass. And it's not like you'd lose your life by taking this exam. You won't get injured either. And if you fail? So what? Like I said, you can try again next time. There are no trial limits either, so don't be nervous." His words managed to calm down the participants. Cedric could tell that Chrome was used to this. When the exam starts, your access to the system will be heavily restricted. This is to prevent cheating. You will have an hour to answer the questionnaire as much as you can. The passing score is 725 points. Pay attention to the instructions, that's all the hint I'll give you. That's pretty much it. So, ready or not folks? Your exam starts, now. It can't be this easy, right? Cedric seriously started doubting his knowledge as he reviewed the contents of his exam. Not that it's hard. Actually, it's the opposite. It's easy, too easy, even. Someone who memorized the symbols for the stupid book, the introductory material for people who are interested, would be able to answer everything that's in the questionnaire. Sure, there were some misleading questions here and there. Those who breeze through the exam, not reading each question properly, will fall into this trap. But even these questions could be counted with his fingers with some left. For an exam that would determine if someone could be considered a professional, this was a little disappointing. There should be a catch here, at least. Cedric sighed after reviewing his answers for the 5th time now. He looked at their examiner, Chrome, who was dozing off in a corner, and his lips twitched. Seriously, the guy was too relaxed. He wasn't putting on an act either, that much Cedric could tell. Maybe there's none, maybe I'm just overthinking things. Cedric shook his head and decided to review his answers one final time. And even after doing that, he still had some time left. He waited until the timer was over before passing his answers. Once the time was up, Chrome told them that they would receive an email about their results after a few minutes. There's no surprise here. Cedric aced the exams. Not a single wrong answer on his papers. He received a congratulatory email as well as instructions on where to proceed from there. Leaving the exam room, he went back to the reception to get his credentials. After confirming his results, the staff gave him his license and congratulated him for becoming a member of the Lifestyle Guild. With his license and registration done, Cedric no longer had any business being here. Now that he's officially recognized by the guild as a professional scribe, he could take requests or missions from the guild to build up his profile steadily. Granted, he could only do small missions right now. That's the rule for any beginners like him. That may be why the test was so easy. He mused while he was driving his car. Even the low-leveled missions rewards demon souls upon completion. They must be pitying those who are struggling financially. Most of the work listed on the quest board can be completed online for the convenience of its members. Harder missions require a visit, like what the group of inscriptionists who visited the RMC did. Either way, if one desires to become a part of the upper echelons of the guild, then one must build their profile carefully. Cedric had no interest in participating in the politics of the Lifestyle Guild though. If anything, he just did this to add to his credentials as a civilian. That said though, his official registration would help him in the future. Just a reminder, Cedric did discover a way to purify demon souls. Although it's still a prototype, for now, it worked phenomenally. If he wants to release his invention one day, having this license would come in handy. And if he builds a decent portfolio with the guild, then his credibility wouldn't be questioned. On his way back home, Cedric went to a drive-thru to get something to eat. Once he's back home, he is greeted by Erica, who confirms if he is really okay with not being paid for his help. Cedric assured her that there was really no need. He was tempted to tell her that he was essentially a millionaire, far from lacking in financial terms, though he prevented himself from doing so. As it turns out, Erica was supposed to leave that same day, so his timing was perfect. He sent off Erica. Once she was out of sight, Cedric threw an array disc on her lawn. As soon as the thing landed, it released a pulse of light that covered every inch of her property. This array disc was similar to a security system. It alerts Cedric of any disturbances within the area. It also contains traps and nasty surprises for any stranger who dares to entertain any idea about Erica's home. As for trimming her lawn, that's not an issue for now. She just trimmed it. Besides, if it grew, Cedric could trim it in no time at all, so there's nothing to worry about. With that out of the way, Cedric returned to his home and decided to relax. While he was relaxing, he was thinking about his future. Well, he's tier 2 now, something that he thought would never happen less than a year ago, but here he is. Additionally, he's not just any ordinary tier 2 superhuman. He's a tier 2 superhuman who has a legendary tier class, Demon Slayer, and also a unique class, Luminous Sage, who also has an EX-ranked overall aptitude. He's a uniquely terrifying person, one who has to keep all of this a secret if he wants to grow old in this world. Wait, isn't there a sage art for this? Cedric hurriedly closed his eyes and reviewed his stock knowledge about sage arts. It didn't take him long before he got what he needed. Alright, let's try this out. Sage Art, Jester's Mask. Cedric's face then suddenly warped, changing into something new. His hair color also changed to black. He looked in the mirror and didn't recognize himself. This meant that the technique worked. Jester's Mask was a sage art that was purposefully created to fool people. It changes the caster's appearance based on the image they want. The technique was also comprehensive since even the caster's voice, height, weight, hair color, birthmarks, and so on could be changed. If Cedric were to master this technique, then he could fool even those with skills that could determine someone's true appearance. And with how absurd Cedric's learning speed was, this was a guarantee. This is perfect. Cedric inwardly exclaimed. Not to mention, I could keep this up permanently if I wanted to. This technique solved his immediate dilemma. Remember, the demons are still spying on him. He could tell that they were still gathering sufficient intel about him to assess his danger to them. The white mask that Chief Lucas gave to him was still working, but that wasn't a permanent solution. The Jester's Mask, on the other hand, was more reliable. And if he acted according to how he planned to, then he should be able to fool the demons into thinking that he's a lesser threat than they initially thought. Plus, with this technique, he can forge an alter persona. Cedric would still show up regularly in hell dives, acting semi-cautiously as he clears his hell dive. He would display some of his skills, but keep most hidden, only showing enough strength to barely pass the monthly mandatory service. Meanwhile, his alter persona would also go in, but this time he will hold nothing back. He would use both the Demon Slayer and Luminous Sage skills, which will undoubtedly put him at the very forefront of the demon's scrutiny. He would attract their attention instead. But since he would appear out of nowhere, they will have no lead as to who he is in real life. The alter would hone his skills for both classes, steadily increasing his strength while provoking the demons thoroughly. He would be elusive but a show-off. And since he needed to clear his hell dive twice now, this works perfectly for him. Additionally, since Aquila herself called him a heaven-defying genius, she would do her best to protect him. With this setup, Cedric could continue building up his strength privately until the day comes that he becomes strong enough that he would no longer need to hide his identity. That's certainly going to take a while, but Cedric wasn't in a hurry. Time was on his side and he planned on taking advantage of that as much as he possibly could. With that plan in mind, Cedric began to work. He activated the privacy seals in his room. He knows that he wasn't being spied on by anyone right now, but it wouldn't hurt to be extra cautious. Once he's assured that he's alone, he starts sculpting the face of his alter persona. Scarlet red, long hair and eyes. A rugged middle-aged man appeared with a long diagonal scar across his face. Same weight and height to lessen the need for adjustment. This is what his alter persona would look like. Derek, that's gonna be your name. He mused to himself. Just in case a need for a name arises. You'd also be a left-handed swordsman, just to make it different. After all, I already have a fighting style. If there's no difference between the two, then I'll just be announcing who I am to the demons. Derek would also incorporate guns in his fighting style. Just to really make a clear distinction. That should throw the demons off when they try to guess who Derek was. Satisfied with his plan, Cedric dismissed the disguise and deactivated the seals around his room. The next hell dive schedule was next week, meaning that Derek's debut was also coming soon. He has a couple of days to prepare the rest, but for now, he will continue relaxing. Profile. Name, Cedric Stormrider. Age, 21. Race, Human 2. Classes, Luminous Sage, Main, Demon Slayer, 2nd, Scribe LV.45/100, Sub. Level, Tier 2 LV.1. Titles, Veteran Undead Slayer, Son of Heaven, Pioneer, Young Sage. System Authority, LV.8. Aptitude. Body, EX. Energy, EX. Spirit, EX. Final rating, EX+. Skills. Actives, Sword Key, M, Kickboxing, M, Iron Skin, M, Multi-Stab LV.8, Air Hop, M, Focus LV.30, Lightspeed LV.10. Passives, Elementary Sage Physique, U, Sage's Perception, U, Education LV.30, Demon Lore LV.45, Slayer's Mark LV.4, Decode LV.45, Symbol Mastery LV.50, Sage Arts LV.5. Mandatory Task. Hell Dive, survive the endless undead horde for 5 hours twice. Rewards 100% demon soul gain, clearance streak +1. Punishment for failure, failure streak +1. Record, clear streak 7, failure streak 0. Currently, Cedric was standing before the undead horde. Adapting the identity of Derek, he solemnly observed the growing number of zombies heading his way. Others would have goosebumps if they were to face this, but not him. From where he stood, this was just another Monday to him. His long red hair billowed as the harsh and pungent wind of purgatory blew. Wearing a red combat suit and paddings, he adapted a rugged stance. He held a sword in his left hand and clutched an energy pistol on the right. As soon as the first group of zombies neared him, he lifted his pistol and started shooting. Pung! 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 The first few shots were rough, he barely hit his targets. But as he continued shooting, his absurd learning curve started displaying its wonders. With each shot he released, his aim got better and better. By the time he reloaded his gun on the 5th time, he already seemed like a veteran at handling it. Alert! Through continuous action and focus, the skill, marksmanship was learned. Marksmanship, LV.1/10. Represents the user's expertise in handling bows and firearms. Plus 10% precision and accuracy, plus 1% prediction chance. Derek, Cedric, adopted a cocky grin on his face. Next thing he did? He started running while shooting. He even put his sword on his back and brought another energy pistol, just because he could. With the skill's passive effect and his phenomenal senses, all of his shots were now hitting his targets at the spot he wanted them to go. He even started doing fancy reload moves as he did so. The guns he was using weren't anything special. In fact, they're the standard military-issued firearms that every soldier has. They don't use bullets as ammunition. Instead, they siphon energy from their wielder and use that. This isn't to say that regular ammunition wouldn't work. They do, but even the weakest demons are resistant to those, so it's just going to be a waste of money doing so. Alert! Skill, marksmanship has leveled up. Alert! Skill, marksmanship has leveled up. Glancing at the system alerts, the skill now provides a 30% bonus on precision and accuracy while also providing a 3% prediction chance. Derek, Cedric, was having fun. This was a new thing for him and it's always fun learning new things. Letting loose hails of bullets by now, Derek continued his assault towards the horde. After he had enough fun, he started using his other skills to check their effects on the undead. Sage Art, True Sunfire. A cloak of golden flames suddenly appeared on his body. The very sight of the flames caused the undead to flinch by instinct. And since True Sunfire counts as Derek's energy, this means that he could infuse it into his guns, and that's precisely what he did. Pung! 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 Each shot was an overkill with the infusion of True Sunfire. It didn't just kill the zombies, it evaporated them. And the best part was... Alert! Times 30 zombies killed. You gain times 30 purified demon souls. Are you shitting me? There's a shortcut? Derek was speechless. Inventing the purifying altar, a tool that he could use to purify demon souls, took him weeks. Yet as it turns out, all he needed was the essence of True Sunfire to purify them directly from the source. Sneering in irritation, Derek just clicked his tongue and returned his pistols to his inventory. He then drew his sword and vanished from his previous location. Swoosh! When he reappeared, a cluster of zombies disintegrated behind him. Yeah, shooting guns while doing tricks was cool and all, but he's still more used to wielding a sword. His killing speed was also faster with it. His sword was also now wreathed in True Sunfire. The zombies who should be brain dead now regarded Derek with fear. It's an instinctual reaction brought forth by his sage art and his title, Veteran Undead Slayer. Okay, let's try this next. Sage Art, Luminous Arsenal. All of a sudden, Derek's weapon seemingly extended. He swung his sword horizontally, taking out at least 4 clusters of zombies at once. Sage Art, Luminous Arsenal was a skill that extended the reach of his weapons by forming an energy construct that adapts the general shape of the user's current weapon. In Derek's case that's a sword, a giant one at that. It also increases the lethality of any attack that comes with it. Can't quite use that many times in a row. It's particularly draining. Bummer. Derek mused to himself as he deactivated the skill. Next, he took a deep breath and used lightspeed. All of a sudden, time itself seemingly stopped for everyone else except for him. He clenched his hand a few times, silently regarding what the skill felt like while on an active battlefield. Derek then began running. He took out his pistols and proceeded to rain shots at his targets. Each shot paused in its trajectory as soon as it came out of the barrel. This gave Cedric an idea. He released a volley around him. Each one stopped in place before they could even go far. He ducked and ran towards the other side of the battlefield. He did the same on the side, and on the other corner as well. When he's finished, the lightspeed restoration ended, and the bullets that were suspended resumed, streaking everywhere. That took out most of the zombie clusters there were. Derek whistled at the sight of the massacre. And after a minute, I could do that shit all over again. Damn, that skill is awesome. Returning one of his pistols to his inventory, he once again held his sword while wielding a gun on the other. Then, he began his one-sided genocide against the zombies around him. His sword flashed as he cut down clusters of zombies while also releasing a barrage of bullets to deal with the annoying mutated zombies. By the way, the strength of the undead he's facing was set to tier 2 LV.1 at the base, and every 10 minutes in here, the Horde will evolve either by increasing their numbers or increasing their strength. Still, despite the scaling difficulty of his task, Derek was having fun and it showed. He's whopping, yelling provocations, and laughing out loud as he demolishes large clusters of zombies around him. Normally, Cedric wouldn't do this kind of thing. But right now, he's not Cedric. He's Derek, meaning that he's acting right now. Cedric already cleared his task earlier. Following his plans for the long con, he made it look like barely did it. Currently, Derek's doing the same, but unlike Cedric, Derek didn't feel the presence of spies in this run. Well, that makes sense. For the world, today is Derek's debut. I don't know how long it will take before they take notice, but eventually, they will. I really am playing the long con here. On top of his sage art, the effects of his other class, Demon Slayer, were also taking place. Thanks to the demon lore, he knows every weakness of the undead he faced. He knows where to hit them where it hurts them most. Additionally, the Slayer's Mark was also scaling. Slayer's Mark, LV.4. A mark that absorbs a tiny amount of demonic essence that the Slayer felled so far. This mark empowers and grows the more demons the Slayer kills. Conditions for leveling up: kill 12, 345/50, 000 demons. Current bonus, plus 40% increased damage against demons. The skill doesn't seem to have a level cap, just like the education skill. Cedric didn't want to assume, but it's looking like this skill could grow infinitely, and isn't that just scary? Right now, it's giving a 40% additional bonus damage against demons. So long as he keeps killing demons, that bonus will increase. Granted, the conditions for leveling it up would be more difficult than the last. Still, he's essentially not lacking any demons to face, so technically, he will always have progress with this skill. It was really fun letting loose like this. Lord knows that Cedric couldn't do this on the other side, so he's relishing this moment right now. And with how his bonuses stack, the seemingly impossible thing happened. The spawning rate of zombies couldn't keep up with his killing speed. And isn't that just an incredible feat? This task was supposed to drown him and bury him with hordes of zombies, yet now, he's actually running out of enemies to kill. This just proves how absurd Cedric had gotten, thanks to his recent evolution. Boom. 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 In the middle of the decaying battlefield within Purgatory, Cedric, ran, leaving ruined zombies behind. It didn't matter whether they were ordinary zombies or mutated ones, those who were touched by the golden flames on his sword and bullets dissipated into ash shortly after. From time to time, Derek would cast lightspeed, clearing every enemy his eye could see. The poor undead couldn't even see how they died. Once the first hour passed, the first boss appeared. It was a tier 3 brute zombie, one that's pure muscle and rage. But even with its thick sinew and explosive strength, Derek's true sun fire proved to be its bane. Sure, it died slower than the others, but it still died nonetheless. And with how sharp Derek's senses were and how quick he could be, it was expected that the boss failed to graze even the hem of his combat suit. After defeating the first boss, Derek had to face tier 2 LV.9 zombies at base. But since the Horde evolves the longer he stays, it is certain that this isn't going to last long. Still, Derek continued with his massacre. Despite being severely outnumbered and technically weaker compared to the foes around him, he was doing a damn fine job in clearing them. But then, a surprising development occurred when an hour and a half passed on the timer. The zombie horde suddenly ceased, which confused him greatly. Shortly afterwards, however, a new species of undead appeared all around him. Ghouls? Derek muttered upon laying eyes on them. A quadrupedal undead that closely resembles dogs. They have on fur coat, only a singed skin leaking foul blue blood. Their eyes glowed ghastly green in color, and they were incredibly swift. They drool a lot too, and they are acidic in nature, melting the soil and leaving wisps of smoke as they fall. They spawned in packs, dozens, at once. They snarled at him, leaking killing intent and desire to feast on his flesh. Fighting ghouls was different from fighting zombies. For one, the former was much quicker on their chase compared to the latter. Ghouls are also cunning creatures who completely give in to their animalistic tendencies. They always act like cornered beasts, feral and extremely dangerous. I guess I shouldn't be surprised. Derek mused, ghouls are undead creatures, and my task is to survive 3 hours under the assault of the endless undead horde. It didn't specify that I'd only be facing zombies. Now that he had seen this, Derek could safely assume that, as time went on, this battlefield would introduce him to other undead variants out there. Still, that's something that he'll deal with in the future. For now, his attention calls to the present. The ghouls treated him like proper prey. They hunted him instead of blindly running towards him and taking a bite of his flesh. They were persistent and never ran out of energy. They moved in packs too, so if one was attacking him, another wasn't too far away. Still, since they count as undead creatures, his title exerts an effect on them. Additionally, he was geared to combat demons of all kinds, not to mention, he had access to true sunfire. So, even though they're different from zombies, they still fall to his assault. His sword cuts them like a knife through butter. They could evade his bullets but not all of them, and since he was growing as the battle continued, his marksmanship skill was leveling up as well, so his missed shots were slowly but surely disappearing. Derek alternated between shooting his guns and his sword. He did so to prevent his foes from adjusting to his fighting style. This fits right into the personality he made for this persona, a wild yet unpredictable fighting style. Despite being mobbed by a different enemy now, Derek still whoops and yells in joy as he fights. Again, this was all an act that fit right into his character. He also practiced more sage arts he learned. True sunfire burns his foes into ashes within seconds. Jester's mask was already doing its thing. Sunlight manipulation was also effective against demons, but was mostly used to weaken them and illuminate the vicinity. Still, all corruption and demons the sunlight touches were singed due to its properties. Luminous Arsenal was tricky to use. It costs a lot of energy to do so, but it's perfect to demolish hundreds of foes at once. It's perfect to give him some wiggle room whenever he feels like he's being cornered. But again, it does cost him a lot of energy. Sunlit Stars is another sage art he tried just now. It's a technique that leaves a large golden orb of energy that shoots out bolts of sun-infused projectiles. It stays in place once it is cast, so it's a lot like a turret. It couldn't be damaged by normal means too. The skill fires out 2 shots per second and lasts for a minute. Its current range was 200 meters in radius. The current problem with this skill is that it fires too quickly. It only requires a single shot to kill a ghoul, but with how fast it attacks, it would sometimes shoot the same target twice, which is a waste considering that it only lasts for a minute. Additionally, just like the Luminous Arsenal, this too costs too much energy, so currently Derek can't spam it. Still, this was a good skill to have. And once Derek's mastery over the sage arts increased, the problems this skill had would automatically solve itself, so he only needed more experience. As for other sage arts, they're locked away in his memories for now. It's either because he's too weak to use them or because he's not ready to learn them just yet. Again, he only needs time to learn them, and that will come naturally the more he increases his mastery over the sage arts, so there's no point mulling about it for now. Derek continued killing until the clock hit the 2-hour mark. Once there, he faced another boss. This one was a ghoul king. But just like the brute boss earlier, this too fell under his assault. From this point onwards, he's now fighting tier 4 LV.5 foes. He could still kill them, but it's taking more effort on his part now. That said, Cedric, was already used to this. The escalating challenge of his monthly mandatory task didn't surprise him anymore. In fact, he's actually looking forward to it now. He killed until the final boss came. This time, he faced two Tier 5 LV.1 Ghoul Kings at the same time. This was a hard-fought battle, too. And to others, this might appear as a disaster or a death spell. But for Derek? This was an exhilarating fight despite its difficulty. And despite the odds being against him, Derek claimed victory over his foes. He stood as the last man standing in this ruined purgatory battlefield. He was tired, sweaty, and gross, but he was victorious. Smiling to himself, he confirmed the conclusion of the fight and left purgatory to return to the real world, unaware that as he left, a pair of eyes were looking at him. On the other side of the planet, and that meant quite literally, a kingdom shrouded in darkness, could be seen. If it weren't for the doom and gloom that blanketed everything within sight around these parts, this place would have been considered a prosperous empire. Sadly, this place was antithetical to life, and humans weren't welcomed here, not now or ever. On the outskirts of this dark kingdom, in a place that closely resembles a military barracks, a flurry of activity was currently occurring. Grr. Raf. MMHM. Tell me more. Grr. Grr, hoo-hoo, Raf. Is that so? I see, well, thank you for telling me that. Here, a treat for you, you adorable thing. A Ghoul King hardly falls under the category of adorable, but it didn't matter to its owner. Said the owner standing up, looking quite solemn and intimidating due to the large horns adorning its head. Their skin was blood red, their scara was black with snake-like pupils. They were also wearing heavy armor that made grating sounds each time they moved. This one was a demon. Not just any demon either. It's one of the stronger ones that regained their sentience by devouring a large amount of life to evolve itself. This demon made its way towards the nearby quarters, holding a piece of equipment that was made for demonkind. It closely resembled that of a handheld computer. The demon was jotting down reports on that equipment for the sake of documentation. Once the demon reached their destination, they entered and requested a personal meeting with one of the supervisors around this area. They were told to wait for a few minutes. After that, they were allowed entry. Fair. How can help you, friend? You look constipated though, what's up? Another demon that was sitting behind a desk asked worriedly. One of my pets discovered young Sage. The moment Fair said that, the atmosphere within the room suddenly turned soul-chilling cold. Fortunately, Fair was already used to this kind of outburst. Tell me more. And this brings us to my final point. You have done extremely well in terms of adjusting to a new environment. I've observed your progress closely, and I can confidently say that you're in perfect health, and that includes your mental health too. Of course, if you ever feel burdened by your emotions or distressed, you have my number and you know where to find me. I'd appreciate it if you could visit me once every 3 months, just to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. Other than that, you're clear. Thank you, document. Cedric bowed slightly at the good doctor. Oh shush, this is all you, all I did was to be a good listener. You did extremely well, and I'm proud of you. Dr. Vega replied. Cedric scratched the back of his head. The doctor gave her last bits of advice before dismissing him, and as he walked out of the Renew Life Institute, he couldn't help but feel visibly less burdened. It's a little surprising how fast time flies. He could still remember this place being the first thing he ever visited the moment he arrived in the city. It has been a few months since then. Back then, he was still jittery that it's hilarious. He was wary of everybody around him like each and every single one of them was out to get him. His eyes were untrusting and his body language was always guarded. It couldn't be helped since that was his first time rejoining the civilization after many years. Being used to a toxic environment does that to someone. Now though, Cedric perfectly blends in with the crowd. If it weren't for him covering most of his facial features, nobody would even notice his presence at all. It's a little weird, but Cedric feels at home now. After constant therapy sessions with Dr. Vega and him adjusting to the peaceful environment around him, Cedric learned how to properly relax and just exist in peace. He's just like them now, no longer deathly afraid of their daunting monthly mandatory service, has a steady flow of income, is a homeowner, and is a proper civilian. For a former convict of the Risk Management Center, this is no less than a stellar achievement. Now that he has received his psychological clearance from Dr. Vega, Cedric's public profile will be updated once more. It will now have this little tidbit of information and in addition, Because of his doctor's assurance, he's now allowed to travel outside of the Black Thread City. Not that he was forbidden from traveling before. He could, but it was extremely limited, plus the authorities will be extremely fussy about his status, so there's really no point. He might as well wait until this day comes before doing it. Well, there's that, but I never planned a tour. Cedric mused to himself as he slowly made his way towards his car. Cedric hasn't developed any outgoing tendencies. He's okay with staying indoors, only going out when it's necessary or if he feels like it. However, if wanderlust ever occurred to him, it wouldn't be too late to plan a vacation. After all, he had all the money he needed to make it happen. Driving back home, Cedric hummed along with the music playing in his car. It's already late in the afternoon. In an hour or so, the fake sun will be put to rest and the night will begin. Cedric contemplated for a bit. He was debating if he should go straight home or experience the nightlife around these parts and maybe have some fun. Might as well. I don't do it often anyway. Besides, this could count as a little celebration for me having my psyche cleared. He mused out loud as he drove towards the nearby district to walk around. The place he ended up in was close to his home, about 20 minutes away. It's a little district where fun was around, i.e. bars, gambling dens, food stalls, markets, bazaars, carnivals, etc. He left his car in the nearby parking lot and got out to have a look around. He kept his field of senses at the barest minimum, which was still several hundred meters around him. Cedric blended in with the crowd. He was wearing a loose plain white shirt, camo jacket, a pair of jeans, rubber shoes, and a cap. He's also wearing a face mask to lessen the attention he might get. The air was chilly, but it didn't dampen Cedric's mood. If anything, he's completely relaxed in this atmosphere. Night lights flickered around. He was surrounded by the buzzing sound of activity around him, but it no longer irritated him. The constant feedback on his senses didn't bother him either, since he'd grown used to it at this point. He made his way to the bar to get a few shots in. Due to these parts being filled with superhumans, the no drunk driving law was loose around here, for superhumans could simply flush the alcohol within the system in mere seconds. That doesn't necessarily mean that superhumans couldn't get drunk. They could. There are even concoctions discovered that completely nullify the ability of superhumans to sober up instantly. Cedric wasn't looking to get absolutely hammered. He just liked the taste of alcohol and the buzz it gives from time to time. Besides, he wouldn't get drunk easily, not with his aptitude, no. Even if downed an entire bottle of whiskey, he'd remain perfectly fine. Trust him, he would know because he tried that once before. When he entered the bar, he was immediately greeted by the loud music. He received strange feedback from his senses, which caused his lips to quirk up beneath his mask. Making his way to the counter, he took a seat and ordered a shot. He briefly lowered his mask down to drink and put it back. Unfortunately, that little moment was enough for him to get some attention, mainly from the stranger next to him. Cedric could already tell that the girl next to him was staring at him, well, more like at his face, but the same thing. He acted as if he didn't notice it and ordered another drink while slightly bopping his head at the beat of the music. As he downed another shot and was about to put back his mask, the girl suddenly spoke. "Keep it off." The faint voice of the girl right next to him sounded in his ears. He turned his head towards her, keeping a disciplined expression. He leaned in a bit and asked, "Sorry, were you talking to me?" And the poor girl instantly flushed by his sudden query. She fidgeted, keeping her head down as she whispered, "Me and damn mouth." She said it very faintly, but due to how sharp Cedric's senses were, he heard it loud and clear, but he feigned ignorance of course. The girl cleared her throat though, seemingly emboldened by the alcohol in her system. "I said, you might as well remove the mask. It's kind of redundant since you'd be drinking anyway. Besides, you don't hideous, in fact, you're quite the opposite of that." She whispered the last part. Cedric flashed her a smile. The bartender, who was watching this on the side, rolled his eyes as he saw how the girl quite literally swooned just from a single smile from the pretty boy. He couldn't blame her for that though. "I agree, it is redundant," Cedric replied. Without breaking eye contact, Cedric removed his mask entirely, keeping it to his inventory. And while he's at it, he also removed his cap, letting loose that mop of healthy blonde hair. "My name's Cedric. May I know yours?" he asked. Oh, the poor girl was nearly in shambles. She squirmed in her seat as she felt his gaze focusing on her. She inwardly scolded herself, because she could have sworn she actually drooled the moment the guy revealed his face to him. God, what's happening to me? My name's Janet. She replied, once again scolding herself inwardly for stuttering. Nice to meet you, Janet. Cedric held out his hand to shake hers. When their hands touched, Janet's heart thundered in her chest. Cedric's hands were big and warm, completely covering hers and making her feel safe and protected. Sadly, the contact didn't last long and she looked visibly disappointed when he let go of her hand. Her disappointment didn't last long, however, because Cedric immediately ordered her a drink and started a conversation with her. As their conversation continued, Janet was feeling more and more at ease with him. She couldn't help it, the guy in front of him fits her standards. Throughout their conversation, his eyes were focused on her face, not roaming all over her body like the perverts she met before. He kept his hand to his face and didn't try any sleek moves. He also knows how to keep a conversation going on top of complimenting her here and there, making her feel things. So, despite not planning anything like this tonight, Janet grabbed the opportunity by the hand despite her obvious lack of experience. If Cedric noticed this, then he didn't say anything. She could have sworn they must have talked there for hours before leaving, but in truth, only 15 minutes passed before she wasn't able to take it anymore. The night was young, but none of the two were interested in spending it in that noisy place. They prefer a more private and intimate location. However, before leaving, Cedric sent a message to Erishem about something he noticed in that tiny place. To Erishem. 8:54 p.m. Hey. You might want to check out this place, Pin. 8:54 p.m. I felt something sinister in there earlier. Not quite sure though. 8:55 p.m. D&D me though, I'm off to have some fun. TTYL. Erishem is an eccentric old man. He doesn't have a dazzling reputation nor a terrifying notoriety. On paper at least, he's just like many other people out there, a civil servant and married man. The old man is known by his close friends to be the clown of the group. He brings in laughter with him and energizes conversations with his witty remarks. And for the most part, the majority of his family also knows him to be like this. That said, this was the image that he created for himself that increased his effectiveness as a Spec Ops agent. He created a fake persona, just like Cedric did, to make sure that he could remain as sharp as he could be against their enemies. With his tenure as an agent, Erishem had received a fair deal of experience when it came to scammers or alarmists. There were some people who tried to use him after learning of his private identity. Suffice it to say, all of them received a bad ending courtesy of him, especially if they can't keep their hands to themselves. So when he received a text from the kid which he honestly nearly forgot had ever existed, he was of course skeptical. After all, what could a kid fresh out of his parole know about the underlying darkness of this city, this world? Yet at the same time, this kid had been nothing but polite to him. And Erishem knows that the kid wouldn't try to scam him with a matter like this, especially after knowing where he came from and what he experienced there. Even the old fart of the RMC vouched for the kid. And Erishem himself did a background check on the kid, so he knows that he's clear. Therefore, he decided to give it a shot. See what the kid was talking about, at least. If the kid lied to him, he will be punished for wasting his time. If it turns out that the kid's right, then shit. Now they have a fucking lead. And wouldn't that be great? So, there he was, accompanied by brats training under him. He didn't bring all of them for this preparation, just 3. Using the cover of the night, they traveled. Unseen by many as they jumped from one building to the next, eventually reaching a spot where they could overlook their target destination. A bar, teacher? Are we here for inebriation training? One of his brats asked. Stupid. The other one spat at the previous one. Teach already said that this will be an actual mission, weren't you listening earlier? How about we wait until teacher debriefs us before talking, yeah? I think that would be a much better option. The third student of his interjected before the other 2 students started bickering and giving away their positions. Erishem just sighed and observed the bar from his perch. For some reason, he fails to sense the sinister feel that the kid told him about, but he's not about to leave the stone unturned just because he hasn't seen a clue yet. He faced his students and cleared his throat before saying, infiltrate that place and map out everything in there. If you see something strange or sinister, you are not to engage. You have 20 minutes to learn everything you can about that place. I want every room checked, every secret entrance marked, etc. Once the time is up, you are to return to me to give your report. Yes, teacher. His students chorused. If you are spotted and forced to confront the enemy, don't hesitate to release a signal. And also, make sure that your identity won't be compromised. Understood? Erisham clarified. Understood, teacher. Jutting out his chin as a go signal, his students flew off and blended within the shadows to infiltrate their target. Erisham sighed, seeing them so eager. Unbeknownst to them, they already received their first mark down as soon as they did that. You three were supposed to work as a team, why not create a plan before moving in to maximize your coverage? Erisham mumbled to himself. He would make sure to tell them this later, but for now, he had to watch over these kids cause, while most people wouldn't sense him, there would always be a handful who would. And despite training these kids for a year now, their skills are still rather unrefined. He could easily spot a few mistakes in their footwork from where he was. No matter, it's their first mission anyway. I'm just hoping that this won't turn out as a disaster. Erisham thought inwardly. He himself changed positions. He created a disguise and entered the nearby cafe. He was far enough to not become a suspicious person, but near enough to scan the place with his senses. As he was enjoying a cup of coffee, however, his senses picked up something that just felt wrong. Shit, kid. You might really be onto something here. He exclaimed inwardly. He slipped out of the cafe, leaving his payment on the desk because he's a civilized person. He turned into a shade of black that blended in the shadows, smoothly infiltrating the bar without raising any of the alarms scattered there. Teach, 021 has been compromised. He heard the faint and distressed telepathic message of his student echoing in his mind as soon as he entered the bar. Actually, Erisham already knew that. The moment he felt that presence, he knew that one of his students had been caught sneaking around. It's also the reason why he began moving. Nonetheless, this happening just proves that there really was something wrong in this place. I'd thank the kid later. For now, the mission is the priority. Erisham inwardly thought. Moving in an unseen, soundless, yet swift pace, he reached the location where one of his brats was being held up. Upon arriving, he saw Gregory, codename 021, tied up to a chair, surrounded by a few people who wore black priest robes and holding a few torture devices. Erisham also sensed his students nearby, but he warned them to not get too close since the other party would sense them. Despite seeing his students being compromised and clearly in danger, Erisham didn't do anything to save him just yet. His brat had a plan, and by the looks of it, he was already staging it. So nice of you to join us here, little rat. One of the priests, more specifically, cultists said. We have no idea who tipped you off, but we will soon. We'll take good care of you. Another cultist added. You'd be singing for us in no time, little boy. What are you planning to do? What's going on here? Who are you people? 021 asked in a row, showing a panicked expression. Ah, so that's his play. Erisham snickered to himself as soon as he saw his brat's expression. Oh, no need to be scared. We haven't started yet. To answer your questions in reverse order, first, we will become your worst nightmare. Second, well, you're the dumbass that got caught, so why don't you tell us? And finally, well, haven't we said it before? We'll take good care of you. Don't touch me. I'll scream. I'm loud. I'll be alerting many people here. Oh please. One of the cultists sneered. You think we don't know that? This place is a soundproofed idiot. Even if you scream bloody murder here, no one from the outside will hear you. So you think you can make me talk, huh? Go then. Do your worst, freaking heretics. 021 spat in their direction. One of the cultists gasped, and with a feigned offended tone, they said, heretics. My, how uncouth and uncultured. Kids these days have no breeding. Right? Why don't we educate him, sister? We should. The female cultists grinned maliciously before proceeding to deliver a crisp slap on 021's face, leaving behind scratch wounds from her sharp nails. We're zealots, you uncultured swine. There's a difference? 021 dumbfoundedly asked. Of course, you imbecile. The other cultist replied harshly. Heretics are those who simply turned their back against their faith. We, zealots, have discovered a new god to worship. One that is infinitely better than the ones who have. That's stupid. If your god is really that great? Then why are all of them operating in secret? And in a bar, really? Of all the possible places you can think of, you've chosen a bar. TCH, some great religion this is. Smack. Pow. Boom. The cultists delivered a series of blows to 021 after he disrespected their faith. They weren't able to control themselves and their strength. Once they're done with him, 021 is bloodied, losing a few of his teeth, and seeing stars. The female cultist grabbed a mop of his hair and screeched loudly in his ears. Mind your words, boy. If you haven't figured it out yet, your faith is in our hands. We can summon all kinds of horrors to make sure that this experience becomes unforgettable for you. Oh yeah? Like what? Demons? 021 replied, despite the difficulty in doing so. The lady gave him a soul-chilling smile and said, yes, exactly. A portal suddenly appeared out of nowhere, and from there, a demon crawled out, drooling at the sight of the bloodied and tied-up human. Erisham, who's been watching this, turned solemn. It's as the kid said, something sinister was truly in here. Dementors, a specific race of demons who feed on pain and misery. The art of inflicting pain is weaved in their very being. They don't look much at first glance, being one of the smaller types of demons out there, yet the damage they cause goes directly to their target's mind and soul, leaving them broken beyond repair. It doesn't help that these creatures just love it when their meal is plucked directly at the peak of their misery. They have all the necessary means to completely break a person, and that's what makes them absolutely terrifying and dangerous. Now, such a creature showed up in this hidden room amidst the outer reaches of the city. Lord knows how much Erisham wanted to break his cover the moment he spotted that creature. He shivered at the idea of what this thing could do to his precious brat. Unfortunately, the brat himself was the one who stopped him by sending subtle signs towards him. Erisham had to also use a trick to cover the presence of his other brats. Dementors are akin to sharks who smell blood when exposed to even the faintest trace of fear. Thankfully, he was quick and silent about it, or else their cover would have been blown by now. That said, it's still up for debate if staying hidden was the right move. God, you all have lost it. 021 exclaimed in disbelief, you colluded with demons. Traitors. So fucking what? The female cultist spat venomously, so what if we switched camps? So what if you brand us traitors? Do you think we care at this point? Your system is flawed and nobody cares enough to fix it. You people have no idea how much we suffered from the unfairness of the world. You cannot imagine how much we lost because they refused to move. To change for the better. So what if we discarded our humanity? At the very least, demons were fair to us. They have never mistreated us ever since we joined them. That's because they want something from you. 021 exclaimed, looking furious. The only reason why you're still alive is because you lot still has some uses for them. Once you outlived your purpose, what do you think the first thing they'll do? Bold of you to assume that we will lose purpose that fast. The female cultist sneered. What? Did you honestly think that our only purpose was to abduct and kill humans? Huh. What a joke. 021 looked appalled by the implications of her words. His eyes constricted as he asked, why you can't possibly mean. Yes indeed. While our goal was to completely subjugate humanity, that doesn't necessarily mean that we can't have a little bit of fun while doing it right. The female cultist snickered at his face. First, we will convert this city right under their noses. And isn't it just that perfect? This city just happens to be near the heart of the continent. I'm sure that subjugating this city will open up a lot of opportunities for us. And through our methods, nobody will know what will hit them. Yes, they wouldn't. By the time we're done here, humanity will be done for. A fitting end for an ignorant race like this one. You're mad. Delusional. Do you really think humanity doesn't have someone to protect it? Ha 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 ha. The female cultist broke out in laughter. Oh, little rat. Isn't that just adorable? It seems that you're too deep in their propaganda and brainwashing that you remain just as ignorant as the rest. But let me humor you. Sister. I advise against this. We can't possibly tell this child any more of our plans. The other cultist in the room objected. Oh, don't be such a wuss, brother. What can this child possibly do? And it's not like he'd be able to tell anyone anyway. He'd be a dead man soon, so there's no need to be worried. The other cultist looked unconvinced, but the mad glint on his sister's face prevented him from objecting her desires even further. He knew that this woman wouldn't take kindly to further disagreement, and he knew her sadistic tendencies, so he had wisely chosen to keep his mouth shut. Going back, you're talking about those fussy old men behind the scenes, right? The so-called 12 zodiac saints? Them? If you are, then you're even more pathetic than I thought. What do you mean? 021 looked downright horrified by the implications of her words. Hats off to 021 though. He's a talented actor. Even Erashem, who's been watching everything unfold right before his eyes, was impressed by the brat's skills. Did you really think that the 12 zodiac saints are all that? Those old farts became successful because of their so-called contributions to humanity. I'll admit that they're intimidating and scary, but that's only if they're still alive. Shit. How the fuck did they know that? Erashem was alarmed as he listened. What do you mean? Answer me. Gosh, you are an idiot. What? Did you honestly think that the 12 zodiac saints were a bunch of immortal men? If so, then you are a fool. Immortality doesn't exist. Even demons, who are way stronger and more capable than humans, don't understand that concept. The 12 zodiac saints that you know are already dead. Dead, I tell you. Long dead. They fell many decades ago already. As for the people that are showing their faces to the public, those are fake. A double raised by the slimy men behind the scenes to put on a show to people, keeping up the peaceful facade for as long as they can. Of course, the legacy of the Zodiacs is still alive. As much as I despise those fools, I'll admit that they're strong. Though they're long dead, they compiled their knowledge and wealth, passing it on to their chosen inheritors, who are also being raised within a greenhouse by those slimy old men behind the scenes. The sad part about this is that, even though the first generation of the Zodiacs were impressive and their inheritance was great, the same can't be said for the following generations. Lies. 021 snarled. Oh, but this is the truth. The female cultist sneered once more. Don't you think it's weird that there's nothing in the news about the Zodiac's discovery? Weren't they supposed to be pioneers? Leaders? Saints? Then isn't that strange? What's up with the inactivity? That's because the current generation of the Zodiacs were losers. The female cultist screeched. Prideful sons and daughters of bitches and self-entitled pricks. Their aptitude ratings aren't that impressive at all. Trust me, I would know, since if it were, then the demons wouldn't hesitate to send forces to assassinate them right away. But none has been sent so far. They bought their way to those positions, smearing the reputation of their long-dead predecessors and throwing their weight around like they saved the world. It is such bullshit. Hell, I could tell you right now that one amongst that current generation of buffoons had killed more humans than we cultists did so far, all for the sake of keeping his reputation pristine and his pockets full. It's because of that filth that we have suffered greatly. The world was already unfair to us humans in the first place, yet our supposed protectors are doing that? If so, then you should understand why I easily discarded my humanity. I would never want to be lumped in the same description as that. Who is it? 021 demanded, looking righteously infuriated. Heh, I like the look in your eyes. Well, to answer your question, it's the supposed leader of the group. It's none other than His Highness Leo. The female cultist spat that title with such venom and hatred. Thank you. 021 replied, sounding calm and collected at this point. You're welcome, little rat. Leo is a hateful son of a bitch, so he deserves to be hated. She laughed impetuously. No, no. Not that. 021 shook his head, wearing a thin smile as he did so. Whatever do you mean? I'm thanking you for being so talkative. Seriously, you have no idea how much you helped us with that loose mouth of yours. Us? Swoosh. That was the last thing that the cultists heard before they lost consciousness. 021 or Gregory heaved a sigh of relief after seeing his teacher showing up out of nowhere, directly knocking out the cultists and dealing with the Dementor who had been ignored so far. Geez, what a mess. He muttered as he digested everything that he had learned so far. Ain't that the truth? Erisham snorted upon hearing him. His other students helped 021 out of his captivity while Erisham rounded up the traitors. The brats couldn't have possibly known that their first mission ever was going to end up like this. They have learned so much that it felt illegal somehow. Clean up after yourselves and leave this place. Wait for me at the top of the building we're at before. I'll secure all the evidence left in here. Once I'm done here, we're returning to the camp. Yes, teacher. None of his students refused that order. Too much had happened here and frankly, despite the lack of action, they felt drained, burdened by knowledge. All they want is to leave and turn off their brains for a while so that they can't rest. Sadly, they all know that that's somewhat impossible. The atmosphere within the city was weird. Cedric didn't need his superior senses to notice that. It was a prickly feeling that just rubbed you the wrong way. It's faint enough that not everybody could sense it, only those who pay attention would notice the tension in the air. Ultimately though, Cedric was different than most. With how large his field of senses has grown, he could tell the majority of the things he wanted to know wherever he was in the city. He didn't need to unfold his field of senses completely to notice a few figures dashing amongst the shadows. He didn't intend to spy on them and it's not his fault that he could sense them. It's either they're lousy or his senses are just way too good. The latter seems more plausible. Flipping channels, he didn't discover any news talking about this, which probably means that it's a cover operation. His guess? It's to catch the cultists that have scattered across the city. He did catch them in the act after all. And while he didn't participate in their apprehension, he told Erisham where they must have sparked this covert witch hunt. Will they find them on their own? Cedric mused to himself. It's not strange for him to have doubts. After all, if it weren't for his tip, who would have known that hidden base? If not him, then the authorities might have taken longer to discover them. How much damage would they cause if they were given more time? I'll leave it up to them. I shouldn't underestimate their means. They're in this business for longer than I have anyway. He didn't like the idea of doubting the authorities, but that couldn't be helped. Right now though, he decided to not interfere. Was he testing them? Probably. But while he could say that he was already involved in this, Erisham hadn't revealed his identity yet. He doesn't have a firm grasp of Erisham's attitude and tendencies, but he would know if his identity was compromised. The system would notify him of that. And since the system hasn't alerted him yet, it's safe to say that he's still a nobody in their eyes. Cedric, hey. He was woken out of his stupor by a sudden greeting from his neighbor. Oh, hi Erica. Welcome back. He replied while relaxing on his lawn. Yeah, I just returned yesterday night. She said while adjusting her hat. By the way, thanks for looking after my house. It looks just like how I left it. I thought that I'd come home to a dust-filled house, but I guess not. How did you do that? I don't remember giving you a key. That? It's nothing. Just a little array I built during my free time. I didn't enter your house, actually, I didn't even step foot on your property at all. I just left the array disk on your lawn and that did the rest for me. Oh, speaking of which. Cedric took out a device and pressed it, causing the set array to deactivate. The disk then flew out towards him and he cleanly caught it. There's no use for this being there since you've already returned. He smiled as he pocketed the disk. Wow, I didn't know that you can make those. Erica sounded impressed. I remember telling you that I'm a scribe, though? You did? Erica tilted her head and thought for a bit, then as if she suddenly remembered, she grimaced and cursed, shit. I just remember. Yeah, you certainly did all right. Gee, and my poor memory. Sorry about that. Cedric stared at her for a bit before replying, it's all right. Happens to the best of us. But you look quite tired still. Have you gotten any sleep yet? He raised a brow since he could just feel the sheer exhaustion emanating from her. Erica probably wasn't aware of how haggard she looked or how unhealthy she appeared to Cedric. I did get some sleep, but not a lot. Erica smiled tiredly. I don't know, I want to sleep too, but I just can't for some reason. Maybe I just needed some sunlight and food and I'll be okay. Don't worry about me though, if things escalate, I'll call for a doctor. Well, if you say so. I'll leave you to it then. Rest well. I'll try. See ya. Erica then left and returned indoors. Cedric, however, kept looking her way, sporting a faint frown on his face as he stared at her retreating visage. Mumbling something to himself, he shrugged and returned to his home. All of a sudden, he paused. Then, he made his way towards the kitchen. He prepared several drinks like tea, coffee, soft drinks, lemonade, and plain water. He also made several snacks while he was at it. He then brought all of them with him to the living room using a tray. He placed them down on the table and sat down on his comfy couch. With a wave of his hand, the security system of his house was deactivated. "You all can come in. I prepared some snacks and drinks for you." Swoosh. All of a sudden, 3 people appeared out of nowhere. One was an old man who looked a bit smug and not at all surprised that Cedric sensed them, while the other 2 looked the exact opposite. "I told you, the brat's senses are quite scary. He sensed us coming way ahead of time, that he even made these for us." Erisham softly commented as he sat on the couch. "Well? Don't just stand there with mouths agape, come here and accept the kid's hospitality." The other 2 visitors woke up from their stupor and began moving. From their body language, they appeared to be on guard towards him. This behavior was understandable. After all, they just got a taste of what it's like to be completely exposed after so many years. Just like Erisham, his companions were also people who move behind the scenes. It wouldn't be wrong to call them assassins too. Assassins were meant to be unseen. In fact, they don't exist, yet here was a man who not only sensed from afar but also was decent enough to welcome them openly to his house. This behavior alerted them greatly, but since Erisham seems to be at ease with the man, they have no choice but to believe in him. "Good tea, kid. Much better than the shops around these parts," Erisham commented. "Thank you, sir. I haven't got much practice, so I'm glad that you liked it," Cedric replied politely. He then paid attention to the 2 stiff men sitting down beside their colleagues and asked, "Is there anything not to your liking? If so, then please tell me. I'll try to accommodate you." "And no. There's no need. We don't mean to offend, but you must understand that this is highly unusual for us. Please excuse our behavior." "Right, we're just not used to being noticed." "I could imagine. Don't worry, I mean no harm." Cedric smiled as he took a sip of his coffee. "May I know the purpose of your visit then? I'm afraid I wasn't informed ahead of time." "That's because you weren't supposed to know at all. In fact, this setup shouldn't have happened in the first place," the 2 strangers exclaimed inwardly. "I believe you already have an idea, but well, it's about what happened last night," Erisham unceremoniously revealed. His companions looked distraught by how casual he was acting. "Forget about that actually, this whole thing was weirdly casual. This wasn't how they usually operate because, you know, they're assassins and all." "Ah, that," Cedric exclaimed but didn't look surprised. "That discovery was quite a coincidence on my part though. I was originally out to unwind but my senses picked up a sinister presence. And since you're the only person from the authorities I know of personally, I called you instead." "Was it a mistake that I did that?" Cedric asked, sounding unsure. No. Erisham along with his companions shook their heads. "If anything, that's probably the perfect move to make in a situation like that, cause if the public were to know of what happened there, this city might have turned upside down." Understatement of the year. One of his colleagues commented softly on the side. "That bad, huh?" Cedric hummed. Now he felt a bit left out since he didn't spy on the operation last night. Well, how could he have known that it was going to be big? He just senses a sinister presence, that's all. Besides, he was with someone at that time, so he didn't think much about it. Real bad. So bad that the reputation of the 12 Zodiac Saints is at great risk if this information were to be released in public. Erisham replied, much to the surprise of his colleagues. They weren't expecting him to reveal that piece of information at all. "Am I authorized to learn of what happened?" Cedric asked. "Yes, you are. You're at LV.8 System Authority. If anything, I'd say that you're supposed to know." LV.8 System Authority. The 2 beside him looked at Cedric incredulously. Cedric could only smile wryly at their reactions. Their reaction was understandable. After all, you just don't see people with a LV.8 System Authority frequently. Not to mention, this man in front of them looked so underwhelming and harmless that they just couldn't believe it. Just so you know, there's only a handful of people who have a LV.8 system authority like Cedric here in this city. There's the city lord, of course, the royal child who's seeking refuge here, 2 personnel from the empire that's stationed here, and Cedric himself. There are more out there, of course. But all of them clearly know their worth. They're heavyweights, VVIP, and are not shy to flaunt their status. Cedric, however, was way different than them, that's why they're having a difficult time believing it. Hell, Erisham himself only had a LV.7 system authority, and he only achieved that after amassing so many contribution points. The 2 he's with only reached LV.5, and that took them decades to reach it. Cedric, on the other hand, wasn't all too surprised that Erisham knew of this. He was already half expecting him to know. He might not know the guy, but he could at least tell that he's an important figure amongst the authorities. You know, I'm actually surprised that you didn't check it out yourself. I thought that you would since, you know. Erisham trailed off. He was expecting that Cedric would take this personally because of what happened to Harold and the RMC. Like I said, I only felt a sinister presence. Cedric shrugged. Briefly, at that. I initially didn't think of telling you, but my instinct told me to do so. Plus, I was preoccupied when it happened, so. In truth, Cedric could have interfered, yes. He had the means to do so, after all. But really, he couldn't just say that he didn't want to be cock-blocked, now could he? Plus, it's not yet time for him to take the center stage. Yes, he could have moved stealthily, but doing that carries the risk of exposure to the wrong people, and he didn't want that, not yet at least. Anyways, here's what happened. Erisham then proceeded to tell him everything that occurred last night in that operation. Cedric listened closely and took note of a few important bits of details like the issue with the 12 Zodiac Saints, the ideologies of the cultists, etc. However, despite talking a whole bunch that night, the female cultist we captured was adamant about keeping quiet. While that's understandable, it's annoying. We used all manner of ways to make her talk, but only a few were effective. We discovered that she's keeping more information from us. Actually, we confirmed it. That said, none of the methods that worked were able to get that information out of her. Her colleagues were also tight-lipped, and it's fucking annoying. Erisham continued. So that's why there's a lot of movement since this morning. I'm guessing that you sent teams to scour the city for more hidden camps? Cedric casually asked, as if he hadn't just revealed the fact that he could sense the teams of supposed assassins moving around the city. Huh. I knew you would notice. Erisham cackled. Be honest with me, brat, how far do your senses reach? 1.5 kilometers, more or less. The more details I want to see, the more burdensome it feels. His visitors gaped at him. Cedric merely shrugged to show that he was cool with it. He did this to convince them that he was lying. He could sense everything going on in this city if he tried hard enough, but he didn't want to reveal that information just yet. But he also didn't want to outright lie to them, that wouldn't be a wise move against them. So, he chose to control the flow of information they'd know about him. This way, everyone would be satisfied. Geez. And you're only what? Tier 2 LV.1? Erisham snorted at the absurdity. Makes me wonder how the hell you got stuck in the RMC with senses like that. Hey. Cedric feigned offense to that. I was young and uneducated when I got there, okay? Plus, I lost my parents as soon as I awakened. The grief and desperation clouded my mind, and that stunted my growth. That's why it took me some time. Plus, what's the use of sensing it if I'm not fast or strong enough to react? That's mainly the reason why I was stuck there for a long time. Well, now that you're over that, it's no wonder Akala granted you a LV.8 system authority. One of Erisham's companions commented. They're still reeling at the reveal of his spying distance, by the way. 1.5 kilometers at only Tier 2 was insane, and judging by what he said, he has control over how detailed that can get. They couldn't think of anybody who had this sort of range. Plus, he's only at Tier 2 at this point. If Cedric were to be given room to grow, his range would become increasingly terrifying. These poor guys though, if only they knew how much Cedric downplayed the might of his field of senses. Alright, kid. I'll come clean here. Erisham leaned forward. We're here because we need your help. So far, the squads we sent haven't been successful with their search. Given that you were the one who revealed their presence to me, I would like you to help us search for them. Just so you know, I'm not forcing you to do this. We're in no position to do that. We are aware of the possible risks of your identity being exposed. But we're running out of options here. We only have limited options to use in the first place, mostly because we can't do this in broad daylight. That's why we're outsourcing. Yeah, let's go with that. But again, we aren't forcing you to do anything. If you don't want to, it's fine. I promise that nobody will find trouble with you because you refuse to help. Cedric went silent for a bit. He was weighing his options right now. Thanks to his accelerated thoughts, however, he didn't make them wait for his decision for long. I could offer limited help, I guess. Cedric mused. I mean, I was the one that tipped you, so in a way, I'm also responsible for this. But please understand that I don't want many eyes on me yet, so I won't be accompanying you. Valid and understandable, Erisham replied. But my question is, how would you help? Well, for starters, I'd go around the city. Visit some places here and there while keeping an eye out for any signs of the cult. If I sense some, I'd point you towards them. I'd prefer to go alone, of course, since it's safer that way. Understood. Also, Cedric brought out his symbol master's quill, a tool he used to draw symbols. He then took out a bronze plate and carved a symbol on it in front of his visitors. He ended up making 5 carvings of the same symbol that only he understood. This is something I invented recently. I called it the Mind Passage Rune. In simple terms, it provides direct passage to the psyche of the person the rune is attached to. It's effective up to tier 5 according to my estimates, but I haven't tested it on anybody before, so it might fail. The worst outcome of failure is, of course, the death of the target. Still, if you run out of options, maybe you can try that? Up to you, though. Erisham accepted the runes with a solemn expression. Inwardly, he couldn't help but think that this kid was just too full of surprises. He had never seen this rune before, and that's to be expected since Cedric did say he invented it. That said, he had his fair share of experience regarding symbols, and he could tell the quality of these things. Inwardly, he was already at least 70% confident that these things would work. Erisham looked up and saw that, out of nowhere, Cedric hummed strangely and frowned. He then looked outside of his window as if he noticed something they didn't. The old man and his companions tried to unfold their senses to see what he was looking for, but they failed to notice anything. What's wrong? Erisham asked. My neighbor's in danger, I think. There's a foul presence attached to her. I don't know if it's connected with the cult though. Cedric murmured while standing up. Still, that was enough to greatly alarm his visitors, because they didn't notice anything at all. Just a reminder, they're assassins, and they're always on guard. The fact that they didn't sense anything wrong yet Cedric did, was greatly alarming. Cedric then moved at an impressive speed. It wasn't too fast for the trio, but clearly fast enough for a supposed tier 2. It wasn't long before the 4 of them were now standing over Erica, whom Cedric had just seen earlier. The trio looked at the girl and was inwardly shocked when they saw her face. They knew who she was, but now's not the time for that. In a surprising burst of speed, Cedric placed runes all over Erica's body. When he was done, the runes lit up and it revealed something that made them all shiver in disgust. It was a pulsing flesh of eyes and mouth attached to Erica's upper body. Now, what in the ever-loving fuck are you? Cedric muttered in disgust. Whatever this thing was, Cedric was certain that it was a parasite. Focusing his senses on it, he noticed that the thing was attached to Erica and was siphoning something off of her. This is the part where the skilled demon lore reveals its brilliance. Because it gives Cedric unrestricted access to Akala's Book of Demons, and through that, he learns about everything he needs to know about this thing. It's a slick thief, a type of demonic parasite that devours longevity from their host. Cedric commented. They discharge fluids that cause insomnia and lethargy to their host. They also evolved in a way that made them almost impervious to sensing abilities, allowing them to feed freely on the people they're attached to. The downside is that their siphoning strength was slow, and it would take them a long time before they completely drain their chosen hosts. Erisham added, looking extremely solemn. While that might be a downside to them, it's another agony for their host. The fact that they stay mostly invisible and siphon slowly, prolongs the agony and downfall of their host, leaving them unaware of how they died. Erisham continued. I'm surprised that you know about them though. What's puzzling for me is that, how come this thing's here? Cedric deflected the topic to a more important point. As far as I'm aware, these could only be found on the Blacklands. Was it the cult that brought them here? The Blacklands is a term for the continents that humanity lost to demons since the invasion. Due to so much corruption, almost all life had vanished from those lands and they were slowly terraformed into places where demons could thrive. It's very unlikely that the cult used these, because if they did, they'd be the first victims of these things. Slick thieves don't possess enough intelligence to differentiate human camps. In their eyes, we're all the same, food. Erisham replied. B-boss. We should bring her to a nearby isolation zone and invite an exorcist. The longer this goes, the harder it will be to remove this thing from her and her team. Her team? Cedric inwardly noted those words, because now's not the time to pry on that. Eric is suffering and she needs help, ASAP. I'm pretty sure I can remove this thing from her. That's if you'd let me, of course. Cedric offered, catching the attention of the trio. He was shooting his shot here. He had never done something like this before, but he really wanted to try. However, there is a possibility that they would refuse since they seem to know who Erica is. Yes, he caught on that earlier. How long would it take you? Erisham asked, despite his and his companion's obvious skepticism. No more than 15 minutes, Cedric replied. He didn't miss the way the trio's eyes widened before Erisham replied, we'll give you an hour. If after that the thing is still attached to her, we're bringing her back with us. She can't afford to lose more of longevity. Deal. Cedric didn't say more, instead, he started preparing for his operation. Granted, there wasn't much preparation needed. He will mostly rely on symbols to solve this, curing Erica the way a scribe would. He already laid the foundation earlier when drew runes all over Erica's body to reveal the existence of this thing. With that, all he needed was to carve at least a few hundred more symbols in a correct pattern and he would be able to accomplish what he wanted. Carving that many symbols within that time frame might sound challenging to the ears, and that's because it is, but it's by no means impossible. Ultimately, it depends on the skill and expertise of the scribe. And although Cedric hasn't leveled up his subclass to the max, he is practiced enough to confidently declare that he's an expert by now. The trio watched as Cedric masterfully carved rune after rune on Erica's body using his quill. Erisham, who had little knowledge of symbols, could tell that Cedric hadn't made a mistake so far. It astonished him greatly to see how much this kid grew in a span of a few months. The memory of Cedric being guarded from everyone the moment he stepped foot in this city still remained fresh in his memory, yet not even a year passed since then and Cedric had already grown so much that he was almost a completely different person. In his stupor, he didn't notice that Cedric already finished his task. Only when he heard the sharp screech of the slick thief that he returned to reality. Cedric certainly worked fast. He said that he could do it within 15 minutes, but it only took him 5 to succeed. When the slick thief tried to escape or attach itself to another host, Cedric once again displayed his brilliance and captured the thing, alive. One had to know that the difficulty of catching slick thieves alive was just as difficult as finding a needle on a haystack. Slick thieves had a nasty habit of killing themselves and their host the moment they were exposed. The parasite should have killed itself the moment it was exposed, but Cedric made a preemptive move against that because he had predicted it even before knowing what the creature was. He did it the moment he began carving runes on Erica's body. Using several metal plates filled with hundreds of symbols, Cedric sealed the slick thief alive. It was doing its best to escape its prison but was too weak to do so. Amazing. One of Erisham's companions uttered in pure awe at the skill Cedric displayed. You caught slick thief alive. The other muttered, but why not kill it instead? Research, Cedric replied as he held up the prison to the fake sunlight. I'm leaving this to you to submit to the researchers. I could imagine that samples like this rarely come by, so you can have it. Who knows? Maybe someone out there could develop a way to combat these things more effectively. Cedric then passed the live sample to Erisham for safekeeping. The trio were speechless at his foresight. That said, Cedric wasn't done proving his skills just yet. Within the next 15 minutes or so, he busied himself creating more array discs. He made as much as he possibly could before presenting them to Erisham once more. Here. You said something about her team earlier, these are for them. I can't imagine that only she got one. The blue ones are for you to use to diagnose them if they caught the parasite. Attach it without alerting them of its uses. The seal will make them unconscious while paralyzing the parasite, preventing it from self-destructing. That's if they have them. The red ones are for those who have been confirmed to have them. Attach it to them. The seal will not only release them from the parasite's hold, but it will also seal the slick thieves just like how I did it to the one I caught just now. Meaning more samples for your researchers. If you need more, just send me a message and I'll make more. Erisham counted at least 10 pairs of seals Cedric made on the fly. The fact that it only took him 15 minutes, more or less, to make them was already insane to the old man. He could also tell that each one was created just as well as he did the rest. Now, it's even more understandable why Akala favors this young man so much. Thank you. You might not know this yet, but you just did our government a huge favor by saving her, and her team should it be confirmed that they too caught the same parasites. Erisham stated. I knew she wasn't a simple woman. Cedric chuckled. She's way too disciplined compared to the rest. But well, here, she's just my neighbor, so don't sweat it too much. Though I'd prefer it if you could minimize my presence in your reports. Cedric requested. I'm not yet ready to face the music head-on if you catch my drift. We will do our best. Erisham readily agreed. Compared to the amount of favors Cedric would be doing for them, this much in exchange was practically nothing. His LV.8 system authority will stop those who would try to pry dead in their tracks. As for the others, Erisham would deal with it. Well, since we're done here, I guess I'd start roaming the city tomorrow morning. Cedric declared. I'd imagine that you three would be busy from here on out, though. I will give Erisham updates from time to time. Hopefully, we can catch all of them to free this city. I'll be expecting from you then. Thank you for helping us. Erisham replied. After saying that, the trio didn't waste any time and left to return to their base. Once they were outside Cedric's field of senses, Erisham sent a mental message to his companions. You witnessed his skills up close and personal. I don't think I need to remind you, but just in case, I still will. Do not, by any means, try to antagonize him. We will protect his identity until the day comes that he's ready to face the music. Are we clear on this? Loud and clear, boss. The other two replied with a determined expression. Per his request, Erica had not been made aware of what he did for her and her team. She was, however, informed of what transpired. And to say that she was disappointed with herself was an understatement. Now, here she was, mopping at a corner of a room with a clouded expression. Erica. One of her teammates called out to her, pouting as she marched where she was. Come on, quite sulking. We're not blaming you at all. Give me a smile, please? That doesn't really make me feel better. Erica sadly pointed out. I think I'd actually prefer if you guys were mad at me. After all, my carelessness caused you to lose your lifespans. This is what she was mad about. In this team of hers, Erica was designated to be their support, someone who's supposed to look after them and make sure that they would safely return from their mission. It was her task to do a checkup and see if they got any infections whatsoever right before returning to civilization. The fact that she completely missed the slick thieves attached not only to her but to her team as well, filled her with so much disappointment aimed at herself. We can make up with those using longevity extending elixirs. Another one of her teammates chimed in. Our bosses even footed the bill since their sensors also missed the slick thieves. In their eyes, they're also at fault. Don't let this burden you too much. But. Erica sniffed, feeling really miffed about the situation. This is where their leader came in. He squatted next to her and patted her head like she was a kid. Not everything was your fault, Erica. To be honest, none of us expected that we would miss the slick thieves. You did the procedure correctly, you used all the tools you have available. You didn't drop your guard and the equipment themselves didn't sense them. You did your best. It's not your fault that our tools failed us. But some unknown guy managed to do what I and those equipment couldn't, Erica whined. Not to mention, he did it using symbols only. I feel so inadequate, especially after seeing how he did it so easily. Now, nobody could help her with this. And well, that's probably fine, for the most part at least. Erica had seen the tools that were used to diagnose and cure them. At first, she was skeptical about them seeing that they're mirror ray discs, but the moment they were used, all of her doubts vanished like snow under the summer's glare. She had seen how they work face to face. She saw how those little discs managed to reveal the unseen parasite attached to every single one of her teammates, something she failed to completely notice even with all of her equipment used. Erica also saw how those things not only diagnosed them correctly, but they also managed to capture the slick thieves without fail and fanfare. The capturing part was the most impressive part because it is well known in their circle just how challenging that can be. Yet once she got permission to decode the unused array disks, the feeling of inadequacy got more stronger. She almost couldn't believe how simple the cure was. It was even more unbelievable how nobody had ever thought of it before. Erica was also an experienced scribe, you see. She knows her way around symbols, and more often than not, it's her task to make arrays and formations for her team. And it's precisely because she's a scribe that the disappointment she feels towards herself is greater. After all, if she were to be honest, she should have known this beforehand. Do they really not say who made these? One of her teammates asked while playing with the array discs on his palms. They're tight-lipped about it. Their leader replied. All I know is that, whoever that person is, they're VVIP, so we can't go around snooping for his identity. Oh? If that's the case, then isn't it completely fine? Another one of her teammates chimed in. Dips are a rare breed anyway. It's not surprising that they're skilled. Akala wouldn't give them that much authority for nothing, after all. Erica pouted, but deep down, she felt much better after hearing that statement. She agreed with that. Dips are just built different. They're not just geniuses, they're bona fide monsters. In a good way, of course. What's important is that we gained a lot from this experience. Their leader stated. Erica, since you managed to decode that thing, I'm assuming that you can study it and make the same ones yourself. Already did. Erica sniffed, presenting the array of discs she created herself while she was sulking earlier. They're not that hard. Awesome. Their leader exclaimed. With those, we now have more edge against those pesky slick thieves. We can also capture some of them just in case to provide more samples for the researchers. Oh, they're gonna have a field day with all of that. One of their teammates added on the side. I caught the news that the samples that were collected earlier were already being dissected by those mad scientists. There's already a demand for it. Which means that at some point, we will have to return to that place. Either by doing missions that involve that place or by collecting more samples. So it's a good thing that Erica now knows how to make them. Their leader added. Still, we were lucky this time. He said solemnly, our losses could be recouped, but now I'll be expecting us to be more careful moving forward. Always keep your guard up whenever we're out on missions, because if you don't, then you might never return home. Is that clear for everybody? Yes, leader. The rest of the team chorused. Good. Now, let's rest. I'm still sore from our last mission, not to mention sleepy too. Their leader groaned. Wait. Wait. Don't tell you all would be sleeping here? Erica exclaimed. I mean, what's so bad about an impromptu sleepover? It's not like this was the first time. Their leader shrugged as he unceremoniously changed into his sleeping attire. Wow, you made that decision like this was your home. Erica exclaimed in disbelief. Give it up, Shorty. Like it or not, we're crashing here. Now why don't you be a good host and build us a fort so we can all sleep together? One of her teammates chuckled after seeing her disgruntled. They argued for a bit but ultimately, Erica lost. Her teammates will indeed be sleeping here. They absolutely do not care about her disagreement. Deep down, she knows why they're doing this. It's their way of looking after her. They've been a team for more than 5 years now, and nobody knows her more than her teammates do. They've been through thick and thin together. They're people whom she could trust her life with. Aside from a few secrets of her own, the rest are completely known to her team. And because they know her the best, they know that they can't leave her alone tonight. Not when she's still feeling down. They know Erica's tendency to self-sabotage whenever she's met with failure. That could extend to a destructive streak that would prove fatal to her health overall. It happened once or twice before and the results were horrible. This is why they've never let her be by herself when times like this occur. If they're with her, she won't slip into those thoughts, because they'd be there to stop her. Erica was of course aware of this. And frankly, she doesn't say this a lot, but she's thankful that they're looking after her. Ding dong. The sudden sound of her doorbell interrupted their act of building a fort in Erica's living room. Erica frowned and made her way toward her door to see who was it. Peeking outside, Erica visibly shook in panic after seeing Cedric standing outside her door. She hurriedly checked herself in the mirror and attempted to fix her appearance. She tried her best to look presentable at the very least before gingerly opening her door to greet him. "Oh, hi Cedric. Wasn't expecting you at all, haha." Erica laughed awkwardly. "What's up? Anything I could help you with?" "Well, I just thought that I should see how you're doing, because earlier you seemed really lethargic. Here, I made you some food. This should make you feel better, I think." "Wait, have you eaten yet?" "Why? Actually, we haven't yet." Erica's eyes widened as she saw her female teammate right beside her, answering his question for her. She secretly pinched her side, causing her female teammate to wince ever so slightly but not to an obvious degree. "That's great." Cedric smiled, and Erica once again lost herself momentarily after seeing that. "Oh, I'm Cedric by the way. Erica's neighbor. I'm assuming that you're her friend?" "Yes. My name is Chrissy, nice to meet you too Cedric." "Likewise." Cedric then handed them a tray, which Chrissy readily accepted despite Erica's secretive aggression to the act. "Enjoy and good night." "You too, Prince Charming." Chrissy then closed the door before he could say anything back. Erica glared at her and was about to give her a piece of her mind, only to be reminded that her teammates saw how she acted right before opening her door. Suffice to say, Erica almost didn't survive the whole night of continuous teasing from her teammates. Within a secret underground base somewhere, a couple of people showed up wearing black priest robes with hoods covering their faces. Some even wore veils, which further made it difficult to discern their features. The atmosphere within the underground base was gloomy and tense. Well, considering its theme, anybody could expect this, but today, in particular, the atmosphere was heavier. Nobody spoke, those who came just sat in their respective seat. Some were meditating, others were busy reading or doing something to pass the time. There are at least 20 seats here. So far, only 18 seats have been occupied. This means that they're waiting for 2 more members to arrive before they start this gathering. Of course, it wasn't just the black-robed priests here. There were servants here as well as other creatures that most people wouldn't want to see roaming around the streets. Those who would witness this event might think that these people were fond of each other because none of them were even trying to talk to each other. And in a sense, that might be true. But that's mostly because they didn't want their respective identities to be at risk. They might be members of the same cult, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they trust each other. And for people like them, that's to be expected. A small commotion broke the silence of the venue, announcing the arrival of the last 2 members the group was waiting for. Without any further ado, the last 2 members sat on their seats, and one person who was sitting at the far end of the table lifted a wooden mallet and slammed it, creating a noise that signaled the start of this gathering. "You're all gathered here for a rather alarming development recently," the guy who looked to be their superior/leader stated. "Are we safe to assume that this has something to do with the recent raids we experienced at the hands of the Shadowrunners?" One of the members pointed out. "Yes, indeed." The leader nodded in agreement. "For some reason, the Shadowrunners were able to locate most of the bases we have at the Black Thread City, capturing many of our members. As a result, we are facing a risk in our development there." The so-called Shadowrunners were the organization that Erishem was a part of. They're a bunch of talented assassins who were raised by the government and took an oath to protect humanity. They're also the ones launching an offensive against the cult of the Demon Saint. Do we have any ideas how they managed to do that? As far as I remember, you told us that your operations were guaranteed to be covert. Another member questioned. That's right. But I also distinctly remember telling all of you that that's not a total guarantee because humanity as a whole is a highly progressive race. The leader replied, as for how exactly they did it, our spies couldn't come up with the complete intel. All they knew is that someone developed a tool which helped the Shadowrunners bypass the mental barriers we placed on our members. That's worrying. A member muttered loud enough for everyone to hear and agree. The mental barriers were one of the key components behind the whole unseen profile of the cult. Through those, their members could fool the interrogation of the government and continue developing in secret right under their noses. Along with their methods of hiding their bases from their detection, they managed to lay down the foundations for their growing belief and continue operating in an extremely low-profile manner. The Shadowrunners are known to be relentless in their hunt. As of 30 minutes earlier, the current damage they had done to the Black Thread City branch already accumulated to at least 90%. The rest are either still relatively hidden or deemed unimportant, that's why they're left alone. I believe that it's more of the former since we're talking about the Shadowrunners. That said, the important thing is that our Black Thread City branch is in grave danger. In the grand scheme of things, even that small branch is necessary for our steady development as a whole. If that branch was destroyed, we'd be risking years of worth of delay to our plans. The leader stated. What's our plan then? High or low profile? That is what's next for our discussion. I will be needing your input for this. The leader admitted with a sigh. If we go for a low-profile approach, it will take some time. Even then, unfavorable developments might still occur. Going for a high-profile approach on the other hand is also risky since we'd be in the headlines as soon as we do something. Both choices will delay the completion of our main objectives. How long? Depends on what will happen, really. The guy who came in with the leader added. If I may. Another member raised a hand. The leader looked at her and nodded, gesturing her to say what was on her mind. Why choose between the two? Can't we do both? Explain. The leader commanded. Well, if we have the resources for it, I'd say let's go for a direct attack, but not on a large scale. She stated. We can disguise some of our acolytes as terrorists to launch an attack on the Black Thread City. If they do that, they will surely catch the attention of the superhumans out there, and that's the idea. They will be the distraction. We will send the core group, tasked with helping the remaining branch members to relocate or hide even deeper within the city to slowly recover their forces. That plan sounds good and usable. Only, we have to take a few considerations. Another member interjected. Do we even know what exactly the tool they used to bypass the mental barriers? Because if we don't, then the whole operation would fail. All they would need to do is to launch some surprise interrogation and the branch members would be exposed again. That's a valid point. And to answer that, our members already discovered what it is. Simply put, somebody developed a new rune that disables a person's mental barriers. The spy said that it was extremely effective and they already got their hands on it. Their leader stated. Currently, they're trying to decode it and make something that will counter it. I also asked them to investigate who made it and, if they can, sabotage the production of those runes. How very thorough of you. Said by another member, and the leader just snorted at that. Well, if that's the case, then I guess we could offer our support. Some of my men are idle anyway, and frankly, they're looking for action. However, I won't be sending them unless we receive the tool that would counter that rune first. I don't want the Shadowrunners after my tail if they somehow captured them. One member proposed. That raises another concern though. Another member commented, if the Shadowrunners got their hands on that rune, that must mean that they're already distributing it to other cities as well. How long since they've started hunting our branch members, anyway? As far as I know, they started a week ago. The leader replied. That's plenty of time to get a head start on the rune production. The same member added, not that I'm skeptical about the skills of your spies, but that much time is enough to make dozens of functional runes to be distributed. Did you send your men to monitor that too? No. The leader sighed and massaged his temples. He tapped on the armrest of his chair a few times. I'd tell them now, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's already too late for that. This means that we have to stay cautious for the rest of the month and observe the movement of the government closely. Another member stated, although we have laid out our foundations, we still don't possess enough strength for a direct confrontation. Sad but true. The leader commented. I ask you all to do the same. Be cautious for the rest of the month and closely observe the events happening around your respective territories. We don't want a direct heat on us right now. So, about the operation? Should we iron out the details for that? The female member who suggested it brought up the topic once more. Right, let's brainstorm everybody. What followed was the cult members ironing out the details of their plan to save the Black Thread City branch. They continued their discussion until they filled out all the holes they could currently think of about the operation. Since there were 20 of them brainstorming for ideas, they finished rather quickly and once they were satisfied with it, they signed it off and continued to discuss other things such as their development directions and their main goals. Once their time was up, the leader ended the gathering. The head figures of the cult went back to acting as if they didn't know each other before returning to their respective territories, leaving the leader there at the meeting venue. Resting his back against the chair, he massaged his temples due to stress. I hope this operation fixes things or else, my neck will be at risk. Cedric swept the city with his senses while leisurely visiting places as if he were a tourist. He knows that the cultists he's helping to catch are panicking because of the sudden exposure they're experiencing. It was a stark opposite of how he was doing, and it paints a funny picture. Still, none of the cultists had any idea that Cedric was the main reason why they were being located anywhere they hid in the city. He trusted Erisham and his group to keep his identity private, so he wasn't worried at all. After a week of scouting, Cedric located almost all of the hidden bases of the cult. He initially expected to experience some difficulty in doing so, since he only discovered them by chance during the first time, but as he went in with a clear goal in mind, he was able to locate them pretty easily. And since he provided them with results, the shadow runners tore into the cultist with fervent ardor. They move fast. Within an hour after his report, he will receive news of the hidden base's clearance from Erisham himself. Initially, Cedric thought of slowing down for their sake. He thought that their organization didn't have enough members, and if he revealed multiple locations of hidden bases at once, their forces would be spread thin. However, the shadow runners proved him wrong. They were inspired and ruthless in their assault. Therefore, Cedric didn't see the point of slowing them down. Through working with Erisham and his organization closely, he was aware that there were still some hidden bases left within the city. This meant that they were not quite done yet because the shadow runners wanted the cult of the demon saint gone from this city entirely. This is why Cedric was still on his covert ploy, roaming around the city like a tourist and scanning everything around in clear detail to see if he had missed some places. That said, these remaining cultists wouldn't make this easy for him. They were caught off guard at first, but they wouldn't allow their hard work to be ruined just like that. Cedric was now increasing his efforts, because he was aware of this. Erisham did tell him to not push himself too far, but honestly? Cedric wasn't even close to that. Oh? Cedric faintly raised a brow while he was drinking his coffee. He's currently at a famous coffee shop near the core of the city. He had chosen this place because it was filled with activity and he could blend properly here. He had been in this place before, but he failed to notice anything in it or nearby. He returned because their coffee blend was really good and it had a relaxing ambience. He didn't go expecting to discover traces of the cult, but he had his field of senses active just in case. Lo and behold, he was lucky this time around. Upon increasing the potency of his senses, he picked up a rather discreet trace of the cult. It was faint, but it's unmistakable. He tracked the traces, and it led him peering deeper into the foundations of the cafe. Luckily, the cafe itself and its workers were clean. He confirmed that numerous times with his senses, so he couldn't be wrong. It's rather fortunate that this was the case, because it would have saddened him greatly if they turned out to be traitors. They make really good coffee, you see. It'd be a shame to lose them. The neighboring infrastructure to this cafe, however, wasn't that innocent. It was a pharmacy from what he observed. One amongst the many around these parts and humble. Due to how ordinary-looking it was, it didn't leave a lasting impression on anyone. The alarming part that he discovered about it was the fact that they built an array that released subtle and almost indiscernible fluctuations whose purpose is to give subconscious hints to ignore the place to anyone exposed to it. Said fluctuations were really faint. Cedric almost missed it. If it weren't for the fact that his senses were strong enough to resist its effects, he wouldn't have discovered it in the first place. Now that he was relatively certain that the place was infested with cultists, he unfolded his senses completely to see what was being hidden down there. And the results were rather alarming. As expected, he saw another underground base. It was smaller compared to the other ones and sparsely populated. He had seen a few demons lurking around, but that wasn't surprising either. What really made this place worse than the other ones was the fact that there was a device here that he had never seen before. Said device was buried several hundred meters deep underground, connected to a series of pipes around the entire base. Upon further inspection, he discovered that this device functions as a siphoning tool and is directly sitting on top of a ley line. A ley line could also be described as the veins or capillaries of the world. It is through them that the world's vitality flowed. Having a device that was directly installed in it meant that the cultists discovered a way to siphon the very vitality of this world for their nefarious purposes. An explanation shouldn't be needed as to why that's a bad thing. It looks like they're using the energy they siphoned to feed the demons they had for sustenance. I can see several tier 5 demons around. That's crazy. This many tier 5 demon was more than enough to completely decimate this entire city, burying it to nothingness. Fortunately, they seem to be in a deep slumber. But still, their food was the vitality of the world. That's a potent source for them. They must have grown crazily fast and strong after receiving those. Would the Shadowrunners alone suffice for this operation? Not that I don't have faith or Erishem and the team, but I think this is above their paycheck. The base was also littered with deadly traps, alarms, and etc. This will certainly make it hard to navigate. Cedric concluded that the cultist must have avoided going to this area to minimize the risk of its discovery. Since they know that they're being hunted and monitored, they must have tried to peel attention away from this location. Sadly, they didn't account for Cedric's existence. Right, there's also their method of communication. I should keep a lookout on how they're doing that. Crippling their way to communicate would hamper their progress even further, meaning less harm to this city. Cedric inwardly noted. But, since he discovered a vital location, he had to inform the Shadowrunners about it. He went to the comfort room and entered a stall. There he made sure that nobody was spying on him before sending a message to Erishem. To Erishem. Hey, I discovered another spot. However, this one might be quite challenging for your boys. From Erishem. Details, please. To Erishem. Location: Delaware Pharmacy. Next to Chrysanthus Cafe. Discoveries: scarcely populated by cultists. There are sightings of several tier 5 demons around. Absolutely filled with traps, the base was also designed like a labyrinth. They have an array that releases subtle fluctuations, which gives a subliminal message to those exposed to it to ignore this place. I sensed it and I'm immune to it, that's how I discovered it. Unique feature: they have a device that looks like a drill, buried several hundred meters deep undergrounds. Upon further inspection, I confirmed that the said drill was sitting on top of a ley line, siphoning its energy, and somehow, the cultists here discovered a way to use the siphoned energy to raise the demons they're keeping here. That's why the place is crawling with tier 5s. Remarks: the demons are, fortunately, in slumber. They're kept in life pods, the ones you see in those sci-fi movies, and I'm guessing that they're under observation. The scary part is, if all of them woke up, this is done for. I've counted at least 20 here, so please be careful. I'll send you a detailed map shortly, highlighting the important areas to make it slightly easier for you. However, even with that, I honestly think that this is still above your pay grade. So, if you could call in the cavalry, now would be a good time to do so. It took Erishem 15 minutes before he could reply. From Erishem. As much as I want to doubt the legitimacy of your report, you never gave me a reason to do so. I honestly find it hard to believe that there's something like that in this city, but I know you wouldn't lie about something like this. Fucking cultists. To Erishem. Yeah, I won't. I don't gain anything by lying to you. I'm actually quite freaked out by all of this. Anyway, here's the map. I'll leave this up to you. Good luck and please be careful. Attached file. Here. From Erishem. Thanks. I'll call in some favors for this operation. Hopefully, we can solve this problem without the city being destroyed. Calling this situation a headache would be a massive understatement. If Cedric's discoveries were to be true, the entirety of Blackthread City is at stake here. Erishem was pacing back and forth. Clearly, he was stressed about this entire thing. He already called in some people that could help them with this situation, but it's gonna take them some time before they arrive. Surprisingly, Erica and her team were also here. As it turns out, Erishem was the one who informed them about what happened to them. Erishem was also the one who gave them the rune Cedric created that saved them. Normally, he shouldn't be able to do this. This team just got back from an expedition and they earned their vacation until their next project was issued. Alas, Cedric was right about this being above their pay grade, and Erishem's hands were tied here. This operation has to be kept as a secret, therefore he couldn't call in for people who were under the direct scrutiny of their enemies, for that would alarm them. Everything has to be stealthy, because if their movements were exposed, the cultists would awaken the slumbering demons to lay waste to this city. And they can't be having that. For the nth time today, Erishem studied the map that Cedric made them. Thank God for his skills really, Erisham doubted that anybody could provide a map this detailed without raising any alarms like Cedric could. And precisely because Cedric's map was so detailed that Erisham felt another wave of headache. The number of traps labeled on the map amounted to a whopping 50 in number. Every single one was deadly, and most would certainly escape their senses if they were to infiltrate the place without this map. As if the 20 or so Tier 5 demons weren't enough of a headache, they just had to add this. Erisham grumbled. But all of that can't top the biggest headache of them all. That, whatever device Cedric told him about that's siphoning vitality from this city's ley line. That's the biggest problem of them all. It was a mistake to brush off this treat in the first place. Erisham lamented. Not that Erisham was the one responsible for that. He, being one of the leaders of the Shadowrunners, would never underestimate any kind of threat against humanity as a whole. He was far too experienced for that. It was the other folks out there who labeled the cult as a low-level threat. Erisham, sit the fuck down. You're making me dizzy. He heard a gruff voice beside him that woke him up from his stupor. City Lord. I wasn't expecting you to arrive. I thought you were preoccupied with something rather important. To hell with that shit. How can I not come when my city's under grave threat? Fucking cultists. The City Lord spat. The City Lord's name was Reiner Braveheart. A man-hulking man in his 40s. He's 6 foot and 8 inches tall, clad in bulky armor that looks like it weighs tons. He had a mop of gray hair and ashy beard. His face had some wrinkles, and he had a scratch-mark scar on the left side of his cheek. In terms of appearance alone, his presence demands respect. He was imposing, intimidating, and scary even. Few people would dare to talk casually with this man due to the pressure he exudes naturally. As for his prowess, there was no need to doubt it. This man was one of the few Tier 6 experts out there, and his innate overall aptitude ranking was S rank, which means that he's incredibly strong. This man had faced multiple assassination attempts from demons and lived to tell the tale. That in itself was sufficient proof of his strength and status. I'm not saying that I don't appreciate your presence here. Believe me, it comforts me a lot. But I'm afraid that you're too famous to be here. That will risk this operation. Erisham reasoned out. I left a dupe secretly and went undercover to return here. The City Lord stated. I know you wouldn't alert me of your operations properly if you could handle it on your own. Don't worry, I made sure that nobody I didn't trust saw me leaving and coming here. I see. Well, the rest of the people you called for were also here. They're waiting in the room you prepared, so let's go. I want to hear what those heretics were planning to do with my city. After saying that, the City Lord marched out of the room without waiting for Erisham. Looking at his back, Erisham grimaced as he inwardly thought, oh, he's not gonna like this at all. About an hour later. That about sums up what we collected so far, Erisham concluded his report. If you all have listened carefully, you should already understand why we called you here. As much as it hurts to say this, we, the Shadowrunners, aren't well equipped to handle this kind of operation by ourselves. It was only thanks to the help of a patron that we even caught wind of the cult's activities right under our noses. This is a grave threat to this city, and it must be handled with extreme care. One mistake and this city will be buried like all of the cities we lost back then. I, for one, don't want to see something like that happening. Erisham solemnly regarded his audience as he finished reporting everything he knew and could. And as expected, the atmosphere within the room was tense. Most of the people here were having a difficult time believing that such a force was brewing right under their noses this whole time. I'm not usually one to question the validity of your sources, but, forgive me, I just find it really difficult to believe that all of this is real. Do we have any confirmations at the very least? One of the people he invited raised his concerns. I don't resent that. And truthfully, I myself couldn't declare complete validity of the proof we presented so far. Erisham replied, but, the person we're working with hasn't misled us so far. This same person was the one who helped us locate all of the hidden bases of the cult within the city, allowing us, Shadowrunners, to clean them up swiftly and efficiently. I've shown you the messages we exchanged as well as the follow-up reports of the actions we took after receiving that intel. That should amount to something at the very least, no? Erisham added. The same person was also the one who saved us from slick thieves. The leader of Erica's team interjected on the side. If it weren't for that person, we would already be dead at this point, not knowing how it even happened. To top this all off, our source was a person who held a LV.8 system authority. That should be more than enough to confirm his alignment at least. Plus, he gains nothing by lying to us except for this city and its citizens' ire. Erisham concluded. Of course, he didn't miss the way how the city lord's brow raised upon mentioning that last part. He couldn't blamed for that. People who held a LV.8 system authority like him could be counted on one hand in this city. Thankfully, the city lord doesn't seem to have any desire to scrutinize their mysterious information source. Okay. Listing all of those sounds mighty convincing. The same person who raised the question finally relented. What's our plan then? Hopefully, it doesn't include us barging straight into the mouth of the abyss. You all might be strong, but I value my life greatly. A sound plan would make this a lot better. Are we really keeping his operation a secret? Chrissy, one of Erica's teammates, asked. I get that we are trying to be careful here, but if we move fast enough, they wouldn't have time to awaken the demons. That would work if only the cultist didn't need a single press of a button to do just that. The city lord snorted. We can't show up to that place faster than they can awaken those abominations. The map shows it all. This calls for a methodical approach. Not my specialty, but it's for the best. Plus, the crowd wouldn't settle fast enough for us to act. We can't risk a citywide panic since that would just hamper our advance. If we took our sweet time arriving there, it would be too late for the city already. Erisham shook his head, facing this dilemma. Can't we? I don't know. Ask your source if they could help us some more. I mean, they're already in this together with us, wouldn't you say so too? This was already the farthest extent of help we could receive from them. With little interaction I had with them, I could confirm that if they had the ability to provide more help, they would have already done so in the first place. Erisham sighed. Besides, it is a risk for that person to join this operation since that would expose their identity. Our helper wasn't ready to reveal their identity to the masses just yet. Well, if that's the case, we should start brainstorming ideas now. I'm afraid we don't have much time left. The longer we dally, the more time we're giving those demons to grow. The city lord suggested. Thanks to that, everybody started brainstorming for ideas to clear this problem as safely as they could. The raid began in broad daylight. Though that might seem counterintuitive considering that they didn't want to raise any alarms, they couldn't do this at night because that's the time when the cult was active. As usual, Erisham and the Shadow Runners were leading this operation. The entire force of their branch in this city was all utilized, though they minimized what the rest knew because this was a sensitive mission. Erisham blended into the crowd with his men and reinforcements. Nobody could sense their movement. They're using several tools to increase their chances of not getting caught to help them move around freely. Through signals, Erisham gave orders to the rest. He tasked the first squad to create some distraction while the others were to quietly and swiftly infiltrate the hidden base. Erisham knows that they just can't completely hide their forces, especially with this many people moving around. They could use that to their advantage though. Send one squad to purposefully attract the attention of the cult, and keep them distracted long enough for the others to safely get inside the hidden base without raising any alarms. Through close observation, they discovered that the plan was a success. Without wasting any time, Erisham ordered the rest to move in. Once they got inside, he ordered another squad to secure the central control that the cultist foolishly placed near the entrance of the base. If they secured that place, they would have more freedom to move around the hidden base. The rest waited for a few minutes, unmoving and hidden until they received the green signal from the men they sent earlier. They secured the central control. With that, they could move without raising any alarms. Next was to disable most of the traps they would come across, which is probably one of the trickiest parts of this entire operation. Even with a full day of preparation, they weren't able to invite an expert when it came to dealing with traps. Everyone they knew was occupied with something. The traps scattered across this base were all deadly. One wrong move and they wouldn't just alert the entire facility, they might also kill themselves in the process of disabling them. Follow the plan. Erisham signed to his companions. Thankfully, even though they're lacking a trap expert, they have someone who could transport them safely around the traps. A person covered in a dark hood, much like the rest, stepped forward and lifted both of his arms. A spatial tear then appeared right in front of him, with the other end appearing several meters forward. As soon as the portal was made, the rest of the squad entered it without any hesitation. The skill ferried the entire squad without triggering the traps, fantastic news for everybody. The downside is that the caster of this skill looked visibly drained after using it once. Not a big problem though, since they have buffs and potions to have him swiftly recover from fatigue. Whoever this person is, he needs to step up his game because failure isn't allowed for this operation. The squad continued moving through the labyrinth, evading traps that they didn't need to pass through and being ferried by the portal through those that needed to. Eventually, they arrived at the core of this dreadful place. And if anybody was still doubting the legitimacy of the Shadowrunner's information source, all of those were bound to vanish as soon they laid eyes on the hibernation pods that kept the slumbering demons. Erashem heard several low curses around him after they saw the sight. Deep down he too cursed. He thought that it was already bad seeing it on the report, but it's much worse seeing it in person. The corruption around these parts is terrible. The air was heavy with tension and killing intent. Those whose will weren't strong enough would go mad after being exposed to this atmosphere. Everybody tensed up. Things just got a lot worse from here on out. It didn't help that the slumbering demons looked like they would wake up at the faintest sound they made. What a fucking mess. The city lord grumbled softly, but it was loud enough for everybody to hear. To think that my city has been corrupted this badly without me knowing. The city lord clenched his jaw in anger. This was somehow humiliating for him. Whether he'd like to admit it or not, he was also one of the people who didn't think that the cult was that much of a threat to his city. It's the hubris caused by being one of the most powerful individuals that humanity had. He carried some form of superiority complex and, to be honest, he had every right to be arrogant. However, this sight was a tight slap to his face. All of this was brewing right under his nose the entire time and he didn't even sense it. Some kind of tier 6 expert he was. Let's make ourselves scarce. Most of the cultists are stationed here. If you can't avoid confrontation, kill the enemy that sensed you right away to avoid alarming the rest. Erashem advised as he and the city lord moved towards their target. The rest of the squad separated from here. They have their targets, all of which are important to complete the task at hand. Erashem and the city lord's target was the drill that Cedric informed them about. It's located at the very depths of this place. It's also a place that is highly guarded by the cultists. They need to get rid of that drill. So long as that's there, it will continue to siphon vitality from the ley line and feed it to demons. Because they have no idea how long this thing has been here, who knows how much vitality it drained from the ley line. Actually, the fact that it's been used to raise tier 5 demons, they would guess that it has been here for a long time already. That just makes it worse, doesn't it? They could only hope that this city's ley line survives this. Through Erashem's skills, both of them managed to bypass security and infiltrate the place where they were keeping the drill. The city lord knocked out the guards who were blocking their path and Erashem left an illusion of the said guards to make it seem like there's nothing wrong. Using the keys they plundered from the knocked out guards, they entered the room and came in face to face with the object that they needed to destroy. The room was filled with a series of connected pipes that ran throughout the entire base. Even just by standing here, they could feel the dense worldly vitality flowing through the pipes thanks to the drill. At the center of the room, they found the apparatus itself. It wasn't that big, and it appears like a regular jackhammer that construction workers use. However, the materials made to create this thing were all rare ones. Erashem could recognize mithril, adamantium, deep-sea silver, and T6 refined iron just by looking at its body. Each of these materials cost a fortune, and now he wonders how the hell the cult managed to secure that funding. The drill itself was connected to a single pipe, and that pipe was connected to the rest of the pipe that's installed all over this room. How is it, Erashem? Do you think we can disable this and confiscate it? The city lord asked. I'm not skilled enough for that, city lord. I apologize. It seems that we could only try to take it away and hope that it wouldn't alarm everybody. He replied. It's fine. We can't have it all. The city lord replied gruffly before taking a step forward to take the drill away. However, right before the city lord touches the drill, Erashem receives a call from none other than Cedric. In a daze, the old man answered it, but before he could speak, Cedric's frantic voice reached his ears. The squad you left to the control center has been compromised. In less than a minute, alarms will go off across the entire facility. The squad you tasked to guard the trigger that will awaken the demons is in the middle of a confrontation as well and they're losing. I'll see what I can do out here, though you all should prepare for the fight of your lives. Cedric didn't wait for his reply before cutting off the call. Erisham was left in a daze. What woke him up was the palpitating killing intent from the city lord. "Well, fuck this then," he said, throwing all caution to the wind. Clearly, he has heard everything that Cedric said just now. He placed both of his hands on the handle of the drill and yanked it harshly, damaging it in the process. At the same time he did that, alarms blared throughout the entire underground base. "There goes the stealthy approach then." Erisham sighed weakly. He hoped, really. He hoped that this operation wouldn't encounter any hiccups because they couldn't afford to fail here. However, their luck was just the worst as it seemed. Now, they're left with no choice in the matter. "I'm not being paid enough for this bullshit." Erisham sighed once more as he took out his daggers from his inventory. Knowing what's at stake here, Cedric can't be expected to just ignore everything and leave it up to them. Sure, he didn't want to be directly involved since he was protecting his identity, but at the very least, he could watch as the operation occurred. And wouldn't you know it, paying attention paid off. He saw how the seemingly smooth operation had gone to hell because of one small mishap. The root cause of everything came from one simple thing. And that's due to the squad, whose task was to secure and guard the control center, removing their hoods after taking down the cultists they met there. See, the hooded cloaks that they're wearing aren't just any ordinary equipment, they are enchanted to lower their presence and visibility. It also masks their scents and obscures their facial features. However, for the effect of the cloak to be in effect, the user must wear the hood at all times. Should they remove it, the latter half of its purpose will be removed. Simply put, the moment the squad removed their hoods was the same moment they allowed their scent to be discovered. And one particular cultist caught a whiff of their scent and alerted the others. That's the start of the chaos inside the underground base. After alerting Erisham of what happened, Cedric was already moving fast. Inwardly, he's panicking too. While I might have grown a lot during these past few months, he is admittedly too weak to participate in this kind of operation. It's also the reason why he didn't join in the first place, because he will just hold them back. But now that shit hits the fan, he can't stay out of this. Now that the cultists gained control once more, the rest of the disaster will surely follow. Using his speed and what little art of stealth he knew, he ran around the street, carving symbols wherever he left. His hands blurred with how fast he carved. His mind was going through numerous simulations as he ran around while also counting how much time he had before the chaos erupted. Additionally, he was also calculating if he had enough energy to support what he planned to do. Thankfully, he was able to formulate a way to support the team without exposing or exhausting himself. Thousands of runes were carved into metal discs before being installed in several areas of the street. Given how fast he's moving, nobody managed to catch him doing something at all. Even if they would, Cedric would just ignore them anyway. I hope this works. Cedric prayed inwardly as he installed the last array disc before activating the entire formation. A huge curtain of light suddenly erupted, covering the entire street in the process. People were shocked at the sudden eruption, but before they could digest what was happening, they felt their perceptions warping for a brief moment. When they came to, they discovered that they were no longer within the bubble. Instead, they were outside of it, which was surprising since none of them knew how that happened. As it turns out, Cedric was the one who did that. He activated his skill, Lightspeed, transporting civilians out of the mouth of chaos. Later, they'd be grateful for him because of this. But as soon as Cedric was done transporting the last few people and himself out of the street, a great explosion rocked the entire city, causing people to panic. Looking back, they saw that the entire street blew up and was reduced to mere rubble. When the smoke cleared, people were shocked to see many demons releasing corruption and killing intent facing a group of people who were trapped within that golden bubble. Kya. Demons. There's demons around. Run. Shit. Those are tier 5 demons. We're all gonna die here. Don't lose hope. The city lord is with us. Panic immediately descended throughout the entire city in mere minutes. At this point, all chances of keeping this under wraps have now vanished. The existence of the cult and the demons they're raising were now displayed for everybody to see. Cedric could already see some brave folks recording the entire incident live using their system plugins. As much as he wanted to stop them and admonish them for what they were doing, he couldn't because that was their free will. He couldn't help people who were seeking to die, after all. Cedric took a second to analyze the state of Erisham and his men. The old man himself was not injured, the same goes for the city lord as well. The rest, however, are either doing just fine or weary from the confrontation they had against the cultist earlier. Erica's team was doing just fine. Cedric thinks that they're a good team since they have a lot of experience. The others who came with them, not so much. Their injuries vary from scratches to deep wounds. So far, nobody has died. A second was more than enough for him to analyze all of this, and on the next one, the fight already started. The city lord wasted no time and went into the offense. His roar shook the entire city's foundation, carrying momentous strength that makes one's heart palpitate. A potent pressure erupted from his entire body, and then he shot off like a shooting star, delivering a solid punch that shattered the very fabric of space toward the demons. "Holy shit!" Cedric exclaimed. "I know he was strong, but damn. This is too much." The city lord was much faster than him even at his top speed. Not to mention, his raw power far exceeds his. He could sense that every single cell within the city lord's body was bursting with potent energy that he could harness flawlessly. That punch of his held an impact similar to that of the atomic bomb but was controlled to a degree that minimized the damage within the surroundings while maximizing the damage caused to his target. Sadly though, as powerful as that punch was, it wasn't nearly enough to kill even a single tier 5 demon there. The best it did was to injure them severely, but that's it. And with how much vitality fed into these abominations, they would heal those injuries in no time. This is where Cedric's part took place. Erica already noticed the bubble surrounding the entire street once she regained her center. While the city lord engaged the demons head first and her team automatically formed a circle around her, she was busy analyzing the formation around them. Some would argue that this is stupid since she has to focus on the fight, but in this case, analyzing the formation around them was more important since she could tell that it would help a lot. Whoever made this formation left instructions for them, maybe her specifically. Using symbols, the creator wrote the way how to utilize this formation to their advantage completely. At base, this formation was already tremendously helpful. Not only did it isolate the entire street and minimize the damage, but it was also created with the purpose of trapping demons. Not that that's unique or whatever, however, this one was more potent than the one she had seen before. What's even more amazing is that this formation could do more than just those. Without wasting any time, she instructed her team to go to a certain part of the street. Thankfully, nobody argued with her. Upon arriving there, she used her senses to locate the control core of the formation and successfully located it. Supplying it with her energies, she was immediately assaulted with the instructions on how to use this thing. Not wasting a single second after gaining those instructions, she activated the main function of the formation. As soon as she did so, several golden chains appeared from magical circles around the formation. They then flew toward the demons, piercing their flesh and causing them agonizing pain, much to everybody's surprise. The city lord was shocked. The tier 5 demons were left weakened by those chains. It didn't just hurt them, the chains curled into their flesh and siphoned their energy to weaken them and strengthen the formation even further. It only took half a second for the city lord to notice this, and a grin appeared on his face. He quickly lit up his cigar and clenched his fists, before diving towards the group of weakened demons. The chains didn't just target the demons though. They also came for the cultists and gave them the same treatment. And if that wasn't enough, Erica supplied even more energy on the control core and used her support spells. As it turns out, the control core was also a powerful medium for spells. Erica's support skills were already potent on their own, but with the core at hand, their potency practically doubled. The healing power of her skills also increased by several notches with this. Everybody was amazed by what was happening and felt their confidence returning. With their enemies weakened and those powerful blessings supporting them, suddenly the entire situation doesn't seem so bad now. Kill. Nobody knew who screamed this, but that wasn't important. What matters is that they have a chance now, and it's time to counterattack. Meanwhile, Cedric, who was watching Erica discovering the clues he left behind, felt relieved. However, that was short-lived, because he had sensed another headache incoming. The city lord was the main force against the now weakened tier 5 demons. Normally, fighting 20 tier 5 demons by himself would be considered difficult even with a team behind him. What makes this even more difficult is that, as the city lord, he had to put the safety of his people beyond everything else, which would severely hold him back considering that the fight was happening in the middle of his city. However, thanks to the formation left by Arisham's mysterious helper, this fight just got significantly easier for all of them. Not only was this area isolated by the formation, but it also weakened the demons and cultists. The suppression wasn't much, but it's definitely enough to make a difference. Plus, with the control core amplifying Erica's support buffs, their edge just became much sharper than before. That's why the city lord went after them like he was a possessed man. He didn't hold back his punches now after confirming that this formation could take a beating. So far, he has killed 2 demons, lessening the pressure on them. Huffing his cigar, the city lord blurred into motion, appearing right before a group of demons with fists outstretched. He then threw a punch that once again left a massive crater upon impact. The poor demon who didn't manage to react in time was reduced to a bloody pulp after receiving his blow. For those who aren't aware, the city lord's class is called Martial King. It boosts the power and durability of his physique by 300% since it's a legendary class. It comes with passive skills that allow him to learn martial arts skills at an accelerated rate while also boosting its power whenever he uses them. What's more, is that the city lord was a diligent man. Rumors said that he trained like a madman in his youth. He's also an ambitious person, aiming for great things even before he had his awakening as a superhuman. He's a person with overflowing talent who also worked harder than most. It is no wonder he reached his current status and strength. The city lord wasn't working alone either. Right now, he had a damn good team behind him. While Arishem couldn't match the city lord's raw power, he made it up with his skill, expertise, and cunningness. As an assassin with a long tenure, he knows the spot to hit that hurts them most and he hits them hard. He was slippery too, his figure shuffled across targets seamlessly and untouched. The rest of the shadow runners were also working well together. Even without Arishem directly ordering them, they knew when to move to reduce the pressure on their main fighters. Erica and her team were doing their best too, but they were mostly guarding Erica because with the control core with her, she becomes a key player in this entire fight. The demons and the cultists were working together too, however their teamwork was bad. The demons barely paid attention to the state of the cultists. They didn't care if their allies were on the way, they would not hesitate to attack if it meant freeing themselves from here. It's clear that the cultist had the short end of the stick here. They're weaker than these tier 5 demons, well, weaker even more so with this damned formation. Also, the creatures that they looked after for a long time couldn't care less about their well-being. Humans hate them too for siding with demons, and they will never be pardoned for their transgressions. Their hope was being drained fast. And since this map blew out of proportion, they might never get the reinforcements they need from other branches, despite their clear need for it. Outside the formation, news about the appearance of demons within the city had spread to the entire population already. Some of the more fearless people stayed behind to stream the fight live for people to see. The authorities already responded to the situation once they were informed of it. They barricaded the entire street, evacuating people nearby to keep them safe. They couldn't join the fight though, since that's above what they could currently handle. Some of the more powerful people hiding within the city tuned into this battle too. Some were worried and hoping for the human side to win, while others were just plainly interested. As the fight continued, the city lord and the rest of the team slowly but surely brought down the numbers of the tier 5 demons. Now, there are only 10 or so of them, however, the ones left are the stronger ones, so they have to be even more careful. Meanwhile, Cedric has long since vanished from the site. He left knowing that the team would be alright, and because he had to take care of another headache incoming. Currently, he just got out of the city. The guards didn't even notice him slipping past them because they were too occupied with everything happening within the city. He's under the disguise of Derek. He was wearing his full combat attire, his sword hung by side while his guns were on the other. Upon reaching a distance far enough for any commotions to not be noticed, he sat on a rock and waited patiently. It didn't take long before his field of senses picked up several presences hurrying over. They moved silently, and they were almost invisible to the naked eye. There were dozens of them too, and all were wearing the same garb as the cultists. That's right, this was the headache that he was talking about. He didn't think it'd be possible, but he still went out here just to be sure. Cedric knew that the cultists left within the Black Thread City were on their last legs. With their schemes exposed to the public, he thought that the cult as a whole would choose to cut their losses by abandoning this branch, however, it seems that they have a different plan. Well, they might not be reinforcements, but replacements instead. He thought to himself as he slowly stood up from his seat. I think they're using the current chaos to slip past the city's defenses and replace the men they're about to lose to the city lord and his men. Everybody was too occupied by what was happening, so it was perfect timing for them. The city lord's busy dealing with the demons, and so were the shadow runners. The guards are too weak to even sense them, much less deal with this group. It was only because he picked up the distress signal released by the cultist earlier that he even considered coming here to begin with. But like what was mentioned, he initially didn't think that they would send more to the city. But just in case, he thought that he'd wait here to see. Thankfully, he did, or else he would have missed this. He could tell that they were using an upgraded version of the tool they used to remain hidden. Sadly for them though, that didn't make any difference to Cedric, who could still see them as clear as day. A bunch of tier 3s and tier 4s. He mused inwardly. I can't waste time here. Get in and get out. If I could get rid of them without them knowing who did it, that'd be perfect. He gripped his sword and took it out. He also brought out his gun. He bathed them in sunfire and used lightspeed once they entered a certain distance away from where he was. When time seemingly came to a halt for Cedric, he began sprinting. In no time, the group then proceeded to seed them with bullets, not before snatching anything valuable they had. He also abducted someone who looked rather important, filling him with seals to make sure that he wouldn't be able to even think of escaping. Cedric, or Derek in his current disguise, took no chances at all. While he already made sure that his sunfire-infused bullets would hit them, he still stabbed them in the heart for extra precaution. When his skill's effect was over, he was already gone. He hid nearby, just to see if anybody would survive. When time moved once more, his onslaught absolutely decimated them and none were even able to react at all. Nobody was spared, everyone died except for the one he abducted for questioning later. The weight of his actions dawned on him right away. Despite turning their back on humanity, the ones he just killed were still humans. He should feel bad for what he did, but in truth, he didn't feel anything aside from a slight discomfort looking at their shredded bodies. He didn't let his cloud his mind for now though. He cleaned up the scene, making sure that there were no traces of the fight left. Once he was done with that, he ran back to the city and headed back home. Like before, the guards never sensed him at all, they're still focused on what's happening within the city. Resting on his couch, Cedric was momentarily dazed. However, he did heave a sigh of relief once he was notified that the threat to the city had been eliminated. The sheer amount of paperwork and political things that came after that whole mess might just prove as troublesome as the fight itself, Cedric imagined. With the existence of the demons in the middle of the city, people would of course worry about their safety and security. They would question the ability of the city lord and his men, they would complain to him about a lot of things, and so on. Cedric got the impression that the city lord wasn't too fond of politics, despite having his status, so he imagined that he would respond negatively. However, that's not something that he should concern himself with, because as far as public opinion goes, Cedric was just like them, a normal but also endangered citizen of the Black Thread City. He didn't contact Erishem either. He knew that the old man was facing pressure from the authorities just as much as the city lord did. He must be really busy right now, so he decided to not disturb the old man just yet. It was a miracle that they only had people injured in that fight instead of deaths. If they had serious casualties like that, the political mess would have been more unfavorable for them. Still, with this matter exposed to the public eye, it also meant that the government could no longer underestimate the threat of the cult. If anything, this might have been the best thing that came out of this mess. The government wouldn't have a choice on this. Erishem and the city lord had all the records they needed to prove that the cult was far more dangerous than they were letting on. On top of the fact that they managed to raise tier 5 demons while being hidden from everyone, there's also the drill they confiscated that could siphon energy from the ley lines. The fact that they could build such a thing should be more than enough to start a manhunt. While Cedric still had some reservations against the government, he was hoping that they could see the bigger picture here. On another note, Cedric already finished interrogating his captive. Through some unsavory methods he employed, something that he's not proud of, by the way, his captive sang like a songbird, revealing everything he knows about the traitorous organization and giving him a much better glimpse of the cult's forces as a whole. That said, while his captive had more information than the ones at this city branch, it was still not enough. This one couldn't have known everything, since he's just another recruiter, as Cedric calls it. While this guy might have managed to climb the ladder, his position was still too low to know more about the sensitive stuff that the cult was hiding. Cedric was tempted to send all of this information to Erisham right away, but he ultimately decided against it. Like what was mentioned earlier, he could imagine that the old man's rather occupied right now, and he didn't want to add more headache to him. The old man deserves a break after all of the shit that just happened, and Cedric wasn't cruel enough to take that away from him. Cedric was currently in the reinforced training area, finishing his daily training. Symbols could be seen all over the place, they're lit up with energy, helping him conceal all the commotion happening within the area, while also fortifying it to prevent him from destroying it with his skills. His progress has slowed down considerably, well, slow for him at least. He couldn't complain though, because he's still seeing progress anyway. Aside from increasing his mastery over the sage arts, Cedric paid more attention to his basic skills. Even though he had already reached mastery over them, he still felt the need to remind himself that he could always use them just to make sure that he wasn't neglecting them. The basics are the root of everything, the foundation, more like. All skills, even the most complicated ones, are born from the basics. Therefore, they must be respected and never be underestimated. Those space warping punches of the City Lord? At the very core of it, that was just a straight punch. Anybody could do that, but the City Lord mastered that one simple move to a degree that it could now affect the very fabric of space itself. Cedric diligently swung his sword with a sharp focus. All of his thought chambers were focused on this one task. He performs it with machine-like precision and perfect strength control. It's precisely because he witnessed the City Lord's prowess that he knew that he still had a lot of growing to do. He was inspired, per se. And watching him fight was enlightening in its own way. The sword in his hand didn't feel like a stranger. He had grown familiar with the way it felt, the sensation of wielding a sword, since he had been doing it for a long time already. But with his upgraded consciousness and connection to his surroundings, he was able to sense a lot of room for improvement. He had seen hints of it when he was watching the experts fight. They're all much stronger than him technically, and the gap was caused by the sheer difference in the way understood how they used their skills. He initially wondered why this wasn't taught to many, as this would seriously help him a lot, but he doesn't have time to ponder about that too much. What's important is that he is now grasping the very same essence of using skills in a manner that fits his style. Focused on the task, his absurdly high comprehension guided him to the correct path to follow. As he swung his sword, the blade seemingly cut through the wind itself, leaving a white gash on its trail. Cedric wasn't using his ki to do this at all, it was all due to the sheer mastery of that swing that caused this. His actions were slow, even a kid could follow his movements clearly, however, the lethality of his strikes couldn't be easily duplicated by most. With this newfound understanding of swordsmanship, Cedric felt elated. The sword in his hand feels more familiar than ever, it felt like another limb of his. The way how he viewed the world changed accordingly too. Now, he was able to see traces all over him. They're faint but noticeable. Deep in his heart, he felt like these lines were a guide for him, telling him to cut here to achieve maximum effect on his sword strikes. Allowing his instincts to take over, he swung his sword, making sure to trace the lines that he was now seeing. There was no visible reaction during his first try, which made him frown. He certainly felt that it should have done something more than that, but nothing happened. The line was still there too. Thinking that he must have performed it wrong, he focused this time. With the sword in his hands, he willed himself to cut that line. The results this time around astounded him. He had sliced through the reinforced concrete of his training area, bypassing the runes he scattered all over them. The symbols were still there and the formation was still doing its job, but there was a clear visible gash left on the concrete flooring which should have been stopped by the formation he installed in the place. This discovery caused Cedric's eyes to shine in excitement. Upon inspection, he noticed that the line he traced with his sword earlier disappeared too. Now that's the effect he was looking for. Still, he was surprised by this discovery. It felt like he had taken a large leap towards breaching the gap between him and real experts of this world. That said, he probably shouldn't do this a lot for now. That slice took at least half of his remaining stamina. He could feel his hands shaking in exhaustion. Still, this was another trump card on his deck. If he could make it so that each slice of his sword brought on this effect, he could achieve a lot of things, but most importantly, it could save his life in dire situations. He kept his sword away and sat down to drink water. He then disabled the D&D function of the system, and that's when the string of alerts sounded in his ears. Through the skill, focus and a magnificent stroke of inspiration, user Cedric has entered the state of enlightenment. Congratulations, user Cedric. Your skill, Sword Key evolved to Sword Intent. Sword Intent, LV.1 out of 100. Sword Intent is a passive skill that embodies the wielder's profound connection with the art of swordsmanship. It transcends mere physical technique, delving into the realm of spiritual mastery. Those possessing Sword Intent are not just skilled with a blade, they emanate an aura that reflects the essence of their commitment to the way of the sword. Plus 100% attack modifier on sword-related skills. Cedric blinked upon seeing that skill. He certainly wasn't expecting to receive that. He had read about Sword Intent somewhere before and honestly, he thought that only swordsmen or anything related to the class could come in contact with this skill. What's happening here? Profile. Name, Cedric Stormrider. Age, 21. Race, Human 2. Classes, Luminous Sage, Main, Demon Slayer, 2nd, Scribe LV.8100, Sub. Level, Tier 2 LV.2. Titles, Veteran Undead Slayer, Son of Heaven, Pioneer, Young Sage. System Authority, LV.8. Aptitude. Body, EX. Energy, EX. Spirit, EX. Final rating, EX+. Skills. Actives, Sword Intent LV.1, Kickboxing, M, Iron Skin, M, Multi-Stab, M, Air Hop, M, Focus LV.50, Lightspeed LV.25. Passives, Elementary Sage Physique, U, Sage's Perception, U, Education LV.50, Demon Lore LV.65, Slayer's Mark LV.5, Decode LV.65, Symbol Mastery LV.80, Sage Arts LV.12, Marksmanship, M. Mandatory task. Hell Dive, survive the endless undead horde for 5 hours twice. Rewards 100% demon soul gain, clearance streak +1. Punishment for failure, failure streak +1. Record, clear streak 9, failure streak 0. There it is, Sword Intent at LV.1, clearly displayed on his skill list. It has been a few minutes since he got this skill and he's still confused. He was obviously not expecting to get this skill. The main is that he's no longer a swordsman, he had already changed his class into something else. Hell, he even added one, and none of them were geared specifically towards the sword. He searched for information online and saw nothing so far, leaving him to come up with his own deductions. Maybe it's because I was a swordsman in the past? He thought to himself, that's the most logical deduction I can make right now. Maybe, changing one's class doesn't necessarily mean that they've completely abandoned the previous path they took. That would make sense since if that wasn't the case, I should have lost my sword-related skills, but I didn't. Or maybe it does, and I'm just a special case? There are a lot of conjectures for this dilemma, but Cedric figured that he shouldn't sweat the details so much. Doing so makes it sound like he's complaining when he clearly wasn't at all. It's an awesome skill to have anyway, so I'll take it. He declared softly to himself. He concluded today's training and ate something. After that, he took a quick bath before going to his lab to continue his research. Somewhere in his house, his captive was still locked away, unconscious, but perfectly fine. Since he has gotten everything he wants from the guy, he'll be leaving him until Erishem becomes available. For now, he had other stuff to do, mainly continuing his research to improve the method of purifying demon souls. With the growth of his skills and his access to a wide range of knowledge thanks to his system authority, his research has grown leaps and bounds since the last time. From only converting hundreds of T1 demon souls at a time, he already perfected the way to streamline the procedure, making it faster and more efficient for users. He even reached a point where he developed a way to turn the end products into a marble, one that users could simply crush to gain the concentrated essences within. Cedric initially wanted the byproduct to be a consumable pill. However, he would need knowledge of alchemy to do that. His subclass was nearly maxed out, but alchemy was set later on his list, so he couldn't do this for now. And while he could simply employ expert alchemists to help him with the process, he instead chose to wait it out. Right now, he trusts himself more than other people, and he doesn't feel guilty holding this out from them. Cedric also improved the tool that he uses to purify demon souls. Previously, he needed an altar carved with set runes to do it, but now, he minimized it to a simple array disk that's user-friendly. These demon soul conversion array disks could go up to tier 4, meaning that he could now convert T4 demon souls without any problems. He was able to reach this far since he had a steady source of demon souls, thanks to the increased difficulty of his hell dives. But again, Cedric still deemed this an unfinished product. There's still a lot of improvement to be made for this thing, and right now, he just couldn't trust anyone to release this just yet. That said, his achievement has already been recorded by Akala. In the event that somebody made this discovery and decided to release it in public, Akala wouldn't easily acknowledge their achievement, especially if their product wasn't any better than his, for he had already achieved this way ahead of them. Cedric spent a good amount of time in his lab, making little progress in the process, but nothing that he's upset about. After a few hours, he heard his alarm and concluded his research for the day. He got out of the lab, changed into a more comfortable set of clothes, and spent his time relaxing in his loft. He listened to an audiobook as he drank his tea and enjoyed a slice of cake. This essentially became his routine as people around him slowly recovered their daily lives. The impact of previous events that nearly destroyed the city obviously had a large impact on the lives of its citizens. There had been protests, etc. But as days passed, the rest couldn't do anything other than move on. Online, however, the event was still being heavily discussed. Even news networks clutched to this and milked it for content. Events like this are hard to come by, and they need a hot scoop to do their jobs, so of course they would take advantage of it. The government already released a response to this, saying that they would increase their efforts to locate the cult and stop their nefarious plans. When Cedric heard of this, he was pleased but also skeptical. He was the one who caught traces of the cult here after all, and that had been a sheer coincidence during the first time. He highly doubted that the government could adhere to their words, but at the very least, they were now made aware of the threat that the cult brings to the table. Oops, I think I need to go, Cedric muttered after reading a message sent to him by Erishem. Erica and her friend Chrissy looked at him before nodding. Their reluctant expressions didn't escape his notice, but he acted ignorant about them. 'Cause while he enjoyed hanging out with them, he had an important meeting to attend to. He left them after apologizing for cutting their time short before making his way back to his home. Once he was there, he didn't do much. He just prepared snacks and drinks for his soon-to-be visitors. By the time he's done, he's already aware of their presence, making his way to where he is. Within a minute after he had set the table, they appeared. He initially wanted to joke about how they had no manners since they didn't even consider knocking on the door, but considering the kind of person Erishem was with, he decided to not do that. They appeared in his living room, they saw him gesturing for them to sit down, and the visitors weren't shy of doing just that. "So nice of you to pay me a visit, old man." Cedric grinned at Erishem as soon as he sat down. Then, he looked at the hulking man sitting next to him, and his expression turned just a tad bit serious as he acknowledged his presence. "Greetings, City Lord. My name is Cedric Stormrider. Welcome to my home." Yes, Erishem came with the City Lord to visit him. Well, more like the City Lord insisted on coming with him. Quoting Erishem's message earlier, "Just so you know, I'm visiting you soon. The City Lord insisted to come with me, so yeah, be prepared I guess." Ig. Well, there's not much he could do about that now, does he? So instead of panicking and all, Cedric just focused on what he could do and hoped that the City Lord wouldn't get too upset about his hospitality. "Well met, kid," the City Lord gruffly replied while helping himself with the snacks and drinks he prepared for them. "When this guy told me that another VVIP was hiding in my city, I initially thought it'd be another shrewd old person. To my surprise, I see you. You're probably the youngest VVIP I've met so far," he continued. "Oh geez." Cedric chuckled. "I hope I didn't leave a bad impression then?" "Nope. Not yet at least. And I hope it continues that way," the City Lord grumbled. Erishem, who's listening on the side, did his best to not roll his eyes at the City Lord's posturing. This guy can be really dishonest sometimes. If he hadn't known the City Lord for years now, he might have been fooled too. "Anyways, how can I help you gentlemen?" Cedric asked. Clearing his throat, Erishem spoke. "Personally, I'm just here to tell you about what happened after the event. While you never showed up physically, your efforts had been a tremendous help to us, so I figured that, at the very least, you deserve to know about the things that happened behind the scenes as well as receive a reward for what you've done for us."